Good afternoon, Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. And it is a big week this week as pre-season friendlies get back underway, and they're all on Spurs play for us to be able to watch this pre-season. So I'm absolutely super excited. And today we're just going to be talking about pre-season. You know, Ange Postecoglou and his tactics. Does he need to change them up? I know it was a triggering point for many in the fan base last season. Some people calling him naive. Do you think he's going to address any of them concerns, or do you think he's going to sort of double down and follow through in his belief and his system? Next, I have a video dropping tomorrow about 5 senior players that I think, really need to have a good preseason and hit the ground running. Players that I think owe us fans performances, So is there any players out there that you have your eye on as well? Are you concerned about a lack of progress made towards the squad with us flying out to preseason next week? There's 2 arguments on this. Some people understand that the Euros and the Copa America has sort of probably derailed the transfer window to a large degree, and others feel like that Spurs could have still been a lot more proactive in terms of outcomes and incomings. Where do you stand on that? And do you think Ange Postecoglou is largely frustrated? Also, Archie Gray played at right back in a behind-the-scenes friendly against Cambridge United on Saturday, which Spurs won 7-2. Does that give us a glimpse on where Ange Postecoglou sees him going forward in this Tottenham team? Transfer talk is practically non-existent. Just seen a link to some sort of a left back. That's about it. But apart from that, guys, you're more than welcome to come on and have your say as well. Do you think now that the Euros is over, that Tottenham will finally get their number 1 target in Eberechi Eze? As you can see, a lot of things to talk about. Also, still got a lot of these young superstars still sitting around. Are you excited to watch them, and what sort of impact do you think the likes of Archie Gray and Bergvall can have on this season? So, guys, we have absolutely plenty to talk about tonight. For all you fan show members, the link is up in the community section for you guys to click on and come on and have your say. So, look, first of all, there's 2 more things I want to say before we get going and start engaging with the comments. Commiserations to any England fan out there. I know last night is tough to accept. I know there's some people are probably dejected. There's probably some anger about. However, one thing I would say, in life, modern life now, everyone's always looking at, how can we, what if, how could we have done better to be able to get over the line and change the outcome? Sometimes you can't change the outcome. But one thing I will say is, and it's one thing my dad talks about with me a lot, is when Ireland were first getting to major competitions and they were going deep in them, still speaks about them memories to this day. Them memories still choke him up to this day. They're giving him some of his greatest memories in life. And that's one thing I think you England fans should take away from this whole Gareth Southgate era. Okay, you got to 2 finals and lost, but it's better participating in the final than being knocked out at earlier previous stages like you have done in years gone by. So, although it's tough to take and it's hard to accept, you should take pride in the fact that you got all the way to the final. Now, of course, there's going to be debates. Should you get a new manager in charge to be able to suit the likes of Harry Kane, Bellingham, Foden, someone that's going to play on the front foot football? Paul Connery will be speaking to, made a great point. Look at that Spanish manager and look what he got out of Spain's attacking talent. Should England go down a similar route, which I'd probably suggest they should, but you should still take a lot of pride in where you've been. And second of all, I just want to say, I want to nominate Gareth Southgate for the Nobel Peace Prize. He's done the whole world a favor. The guy has loaned football out for another 2 years at least. So I've nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize, and fair play to the guy. I'm absolutely buzzing with that. Now let's get into the comments. Let's welcome some people in, and then let's crack on with the guests. Good to see you in the house, Killian Kenny. It says, unlucky to England. What do you think of Ireland's new boss? Look, I'm very underwhelmed, and it doesn't help that at this moment in time, I'm actually listening to an audio book about everything that's gone on with the FAI since John Delaney's arrival, and it even dates back to previous when his father was in charge with some dodgy dealings of tickets and stuff like that. So it's been one family stronghold on the FAI for quite some time, and all you're seeing is the complete depletion of Irish football. Is this guy going to come in and hit the ground running? I think it would have been useful to have him in for some of the friendlies we've already played about and pissed about under John O'Shea. This guy's first competitive game in charge is going to be England. What sort of start do we expect this guy to get off to? It's absolutely mind-boggling what's going on, Killian. But look, we're not here to speak about that today, my man. We're here to talk about greater things in life, things that give me a lot more pleasure, in life, and that is the great club Tottenham Hotspur. Now we've got Matson Edwards, and he says club football is back. Hope there's some development this week, either for Eze, Neto, or Tony. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. We were just having a chat in the back end before we came on, and I was saying, unless we haven't made signings in the forward area that's dramatically going to improve our fortunes going forward. There's only certain things Ange can do on the training pitch, like ask them to run off the ball a bit more, try things a bit more. But apart from that, unless you've got the talent there, you're not really things aren't going to change too much in that department. Also, defending set pieces, yeah, there's a couple of tactical tweaks you can make. But again, we haven't really signed anyone to alleviate them issues or that either. So there's still going to be issues from last season. They're going to carry on into this season if we don't make the right signings, Mr. Edwards. And that's why we need to hit this window and try and get a few more in to help Ange Postecoglou. Big up, Dark Sun G. As always, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well, and hopefully you're ready. Let me know if you're going to be able to make any of the games against the K-League 11 or against Bayern Munich out in South Korea this time. I know you didn't get to one last time, but you might be able to get to one this time. Let me know. He says, come on, you Spurs. This is the first time I'm looking forward to preseason. It's probably because of Ange and our exciting young signings. Plus 80% of Deadwood gone. Now signings for the win. And you know what? I think there is an area of excitement about this preseason. One thing that some of these young talents do bring, Dark Sun G, is that air of excitement, that sort of unknown. You see all the ability there, but that unknown still surrounds them until you actually see them. And for me, I'm excited to see what the likes of Archie Gray can bring. Can he bring maybe a bit more defensive stability for Pedro Porro? Then does that free Pedro Porro to go right wing, like many people were maybe asking for him to do? Be very interested to see how that pans out. Lucas Bergvall, I don't know if anyone should read into this or not, but he played the first half in the friendly against Cambridge. And from what I gather and from what I'm reading, that first half is sort of the team that maybe he's looking at going forward, obviously minus the likes of Romero and people like that. And he played in that sort of cam position in that first half. Interestingly enough, James Maddison played in the second half with the likes of Emerson and players like that who are already earmarked to go out. So it'll be interesting to see what Bergvall can bring. I think many people are super excited. Again, it's a big ask for the guy to jump from the Swedish league into the Premier League and hit the ground running and change all of Tottenham's fortunes going forward. But sometimes, these young players to go out there free, to go out there to express themselves. And maybe that's just what this team needs. When you look at Ange Postecoglou and his job at Celtic, he worked with a lot of younger players and he developed them and he turned them into absolute machines, racehorses running about like blue-ass flies. Also, the likes of Donnelly, Moore, people like that, Ashley Phillips to a large degree. With no Romero, there's a huge opening for Ashley Phillips over the next couple of preseason games against Hearts and QPR, especially to put his name in the reckoning. It doesn't look like we're going to sign another centre-back, so we need that fourth option, and maybe Ashley Phillips could sneak his way in there. So it'll be very interesting, Dark Sun G. I'm definitely excited to see what some of these youngsters can bring. However, I do think we need some marquee signings in the door to be able to accompany these youngsters, show them the way, give them time to develop, give Ange time to dip them in and out, like what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do with a lot of the youngsters. So hopefully we can get that done. And of course, a lot of the deadwood gone, Dark Sun G. However, there's still one guy clinging on in there, and that's Ben Davies. But personally, I think we'll have to give up on that one, Dark Sun G. He's not going anywhere. He's Sonny's best friend. He's a good club man. He does a lot of media duties for the club, a lot of public relations for the club, a lot of, stuff like that outside of training and playing matches, which fair play to him. So I think he's going to be kept around for sure. But a lot of it's gone, Dark Sun G. We still got more to go this window, and hopefully we can get the last of it gone. And, I'm looking forward to this new era at Tottenham. This is what I've been asking for. One or two signings sprinkling into this will really get the fans buzzing and that air excitement heading into the new season. Big up, Dark Sun G. Really appreciate the support, brother. Let me know what your thoughts are on what I've just said there. Mark P, evening, Dave, and everyone looking forward to football again. How's Sean doing, Dave? Big up, Mark P. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. Good to see you in the building. Looking forward to pre-season again. Ange Postecoglou also making his first trip back to Scotland, back to Glasgow. Be interested to see how he's received up there. Super excited to see the likes of Gray and Bergvall and that Markey. When it comes to Shawnee, actually, believe it or not, I just texted him, see if he wanted to come on for an hour tomorrow, take his mind off things. Look, he's in a bad spot at the minute. He's a lot going on. I don't know much more than that, to be brutally honest. I think Sean would probably tell all, when he's got some free time to be able to get on and stuff like that. But I'll tell him you're asking, Mark B. Big yourself up. Good to see Paul Connor in here as well. Great to see you, my man. Dark Sung G also says, what do you think about Spurs' first day back videos? Do you know what was very interesting, Dark Sung G? Do you know that strength test they were doing where they all put their hands sort of across their chest like that and go forward? Bergval's nose nearly touched the bloody ground. I couldn't believe it. Everyone else is getting like, 3/4 and they're falling over. Bergval nearly touched his nose off the ground and came back up. Honestly, I was contemplating on sending the guy to the Olympics this summer, Dark Sung G. Absolutely unbelievable. I thought it was very interesting as well that James Maddison went and shook, I think it was Luke Gunter's hand and someone else's hand, and him and Scarlett sort of ignored each other. I wonder, am I reading too much into that? But let me know what your thoughts are as well, Dark Sung G. Is there anything that you took away from it? Let's keep going through the chat here. Rectus Madness, big up, pal. Great to see you. Hi, Dave. Hope you're well. Just got back from vacation. I think we will go for Tony and Eze. Well, first of all, let me know where you were on vacation, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself, Alan. Nice little break before the season starts. Second of all, when it comes to Eze and Tony, for me, look, I know it's easy to sit here and go slap down 100 million, get the two of them in here, solves a lot of your problems. And obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that. Sometimes you won't get the two of them for 100 million. Sometimes it might cost a little bit more. However, what I would say outside of that, I do think there are two players that really solve a lot of Tottenham's problems. Eze, one thing that he has that a lot of our other players doesn't, he can get on the ball and drive at players and beat them single-handedly. He doesn't need to keep doing all these 4 and 5 yard passes just to get the ball around the guy. He'll just go and take them on himself. He's direct. He scores goals. He has that air of unpredictability about him every time he gets on the ball, and that's what I absolutely love. I think he's going to be an absolute game changer, having that directness. You look at what Son, when he offers it off the left-hand side, look how devastating it is. I think the same is absolutely with someone like Ebere Eze. If you bring him in here, it gives you that different dimension. And I would also think it would free up Son to a large degree, because he's going to be double marked a lot of the time this season. If you've got other players to worry about, it takes the focus just off Son and puts it right across the front tree. But if you're leaving the likes of Werner and Brennan Johnson, they're just going to go straight to Sonny and look to take him out like they did last season, and know that Tottenham will struggle to score goals. So he'll solve a lot of problems, and Ivan Toney up front will solve a huge problem. I think last season, a lot of the Maddison, a lot of the wingers to a degree maybe struggled because they didn't have that constant vocal point up front, Al. And there's a lot to be said for that. That's one thing that Harry Kane provided, is that focal point. Everyone knew his runs, where it'd be, what way he wanted the ball. He was always looking to be open and receive it. Last season, we had a hibernation between Kulusevski, Son, and Richarlison. That can't keep happening going forward. 3 guys over the course of a whole season up front. You need that one vocal point where everyone's comfortable with. And again, I think that's Ivan Toney. One thing, okay, Son got us goals last year, but how many goals did he give away that directly came from him getting his pocket picked and not being able to play with his back to goal? How many games was he actually marked out of the game because we couldn't get him involved through the middle? We need a player that can hold up the ball with his back to play, get players in. And I also think some will benefit from it. Ivan Toney is similar to Harry Kane. He'd be able to hold up the ball, get turned, feed Son in. Son was absolutely lethal when he didn't have to touch the ball in the build-up play. Everything went through the likes of Kane and Kulusevski. We need that to happen again, I would argue, Al. But good to see you, my man. Really appreciate the comment. DJ Samuel, member for 20 months. We're back, baby. Come on, you Spurs. Big up DJ Samuel. Really appreciate the support, my man. And absolutely, excitement is in the air. We also have Tyler. Hey, Dave. How you doing, brother? Big up, Big T. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. Link is up in the community section if you want to come on and have your say. I'm keeping well. Let me know how you're keeping, Big T. We've also got Spurs GCTV. Good evening. Good to see you, my man. We got Longley. How's all? Hi all. How's it going? Really good. Super excited for preseason, as you can see. Paddy Harnick, good to see you, lad. This afternoon, buddy. Hope you're well. Massive window ahead, or it will be the same old. But I think Spurs fans will be happy at the end of season with the business. Look, I really hope so, because right now you're judging it on Bergval, who we signed that last January to come in and make an impact. Archie Gray to have a massive impact. And Timo Werner to be a lot better than what he was last season. Hasn't exactly changed or doesn't look like it's going to change the fortune of Tottenham seasons completely. So we do need that 1 or 2 sort of signings, that Sinise Kwa, especially in the forward line, to really take this to the next level. And hopefully you're right, because as it stands, many people are getting frustrated with a lot of the younger signings because of our, what would you call it, desperation for success. So we do need a couple of players maybe to balance that and counteract that and really sort of appease Spurs fans and get everyone behind the project heading into this season. That would be ideal, Paddy. Good to see you, though. Mary W., I'm going to the Bayern friendly 10th of August. First trip to the stadium. Well, Mary, hopefully you enjoy yourself. Hopefully you have a great time. My first trip to the stadium, I nearly cried. I know Jack did. He was absolutely loving it, but it's unbelievable. It's just like the mecca of football. You feel like you're at home, you know. You feel like you belong somewhere. It's absolutely amazing, and hopefully you enjoy your whole day. You know, there's good crack in the stands before and after games. Many Spurs fans who want to dissect what they've seen on the pitch. So you'll have an absolute great day, Mary. Big yourself up. Got Leighton Evelyn in the house talking about 18-year-olds running the Premier League. Wake up, mate. Hang on. First of all, who's talking about 18-year-olds running the Premier League? You're not listening, Leighton. In fact, I've actually said multiple times, they're going to help you, but to what degree? They're not going to be able to make you have you assault on the Premier League. I've already spoke about the need for the likes of an Eze and a Tony and more experienced players. So I just ask, I don't mind the interaction and stuff like that, but Leighton, let's get on a better foot this year. If we're going to have these interactions, please quote me correctly. That would be ideal. Big up, Leighton, though. Good to see you. We've got Foggy Foam. Good evening, Dave. Hope all is well, brother. Keen to hear who would you start a left back if Edozie is not fit? Well, I know Jamie Donnelly played there against Cambridge, and apparently he had a really good game despite never playing there, which probably shows how much of a footballing brain and how intelligent Jamie Donnelly is in general in terms of football and tactics and stuff like that. But who would I play? See, you probably have Ben Davies who will have to play in that centre-back. All depends whether Dragons is back for the tour. Probably won't be. Ashley Phillips will probably play. To be honest with you, I think you might see Donnelly rolled out there again. I know there's some other youngster that's been impressed so far. He might even be rolled out there. Look, let's wait and see. But potentially you might see Donnelly rolled out there again, Foggy Foam. Let me know what your thoughts are on that as well. He is left-footed as well, and we know he'll definitely contribute going forward, which would be a huge plus. So big up, Foggy Foam. Great to see you. Moondog in the house. Good evening, Dave. Moondog, hopefully you're keeping well, my man. Good to see you back, and hopefully you are pumped and ready for the preseason this week. 2 fixtures, one Wednesday night against Hearts, the next against QPR, and I'm absolutely buzzing. I've been waiting for this, Moondog, and hopefully you have been too. Spurs diehards, I presume that's Adrian. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. We have Mac Elwood. He wants Eze. Good to see you, Mac. We've got Wilton McDonald. Good day, Dave. I think Eze will give competition to someone like Madison, competition to him. I think Eze is good enough. You could play him off either wing as well. I think he gives you competition for a number of places. And that's, at the end of the day, that's where we need to get to. That's been our biggest problem in years gone by, is not having good enough competition, because it allows the players in their position, like we've seen last season, if you don't have competition for them, to relax a little, fall off their levels, and it's accepted at Tottenham because, again, the attitude is, well, there's no one under down my place, so what are you going to do about it? So I do think, being able to get these guys in and give them competition will ultimately spur the squad on, and every good squad has everyone chomping at the bit for places. So that's where we need to get to, Wilton. Been saying it for years. Hopefully this year is the year. Good to see you in the building. Ian Ferguson, afternoon all. Great to see you, Ian. Hopefully you're keeping well. I'm going to take a few more comments and then a better crack on. We also have this from Foggy Foam. Lange needs to prove himself here. So far underwhelming. I know it's early, but come on, preseason is starting. We need incomings. The Don at least was a bit faster. Look, sometimes you only realise what you got when it's gone, right, Foggy Foam? We've got Cozy. Enough of Euro time for players back, and EPL Europa to start soon. Can't wait to see second year of Ange come on you Spurs. And you know what, Cozy? I'm actually really looking forward to the Europa League campaign. Don't get me wrong. I think the Europa League campaign, especially in my day when it used to be the UEFA Cup, I think it's changed a little. I think you'll come up against a lot better teams than maybe what you have done in the past. However, I'm excited to see, because I do think it's a competition where youngsters will probably fill out the squad, fill out the bench and get minutes. And that's what I'm really excited to see. See if there is a massive drop-off, see if there isn't. Cozy, good to see you in the building. Who else have we got here? We've got DK. Looking forward to seeing all of our talented youngsters in Europa next year for sure. Absolutely couldn't agree more with you, my man. We also have DYT2. Let's hope for an above-average season. That would be nice, wouldn't it? A bit higher than 5th this year. MJ Marquis, evening, Dave. Hope all is good. I'm very, very well. How are you keeping? Please let me know. We've got JTB 2018. Big up, Dave. Love you and your content, my brother. Hope you're well. We need some big signings in ASAP. Really hope Levy will back Ange properly, but I doubt it really. First of all, really appreciate the compliments on the content. Look, bit lazy maybe last season to a degree, but also wasn't a lot to talk about with no Europe and stuff like that. But this season, I'm back with a bang and back with a vengeance. So hopefully you can enjoy a lot more of the content I have coming your way. And of course, I completely agree with the big signings. We're not asking for much. We're asking for one or two. We've got more money than anybody in world football, available to us to be able to go and spend right off the bat. So hopefully we use that. Let's wait and see. If Levy doesn't, he's pissing off Ange Postecoglou. And there's going to be a lot of fans who really like Ange that I think maybe gave Levy a pass in years gone by. Will maybe slowly turn, and it'll get more. All he'll do by keeping sack of managers and is alienating more and more fans against him. So it's only up to him to go and back him. Let's see what he does in that regard. And also, big up, Chris. Good to see you. Hopefully, you're keeping well. And then we have a couple more super chats here to get to, and then we will crack on. Dark Sun G says, I took Son and Richie plus Son and Porro. Greetings like they haven't seen each other for 5 years when it was actually 2 months long. Competition for Richie and Madison needed. And look, I think that's one thing you can clearly see that Ange Postecoglou has brought to Tottenham, that there seems to be a lot more togetherness than in years gone by under Jose Mourinho or Conte, who maybe played players off each other, which I can understand what they're doing. They're trying to keep players on edge, trying to maybe introduce a bit of competition. But ultimately, with the personalities we had and the more modern day person maybe being a little bit softer than in years gone by, probably doesn't work out the right way. Whereas this time around, I think Ange Postecoglou has done it the right way. The way, getting to grips with maybe the way football is changing. Ange Postecoglou is an old head, but one thing he done at Celtic, he made it a very family sort of orientated environment. Inside, it was us against the world. Protects a lot of these players, and you're seeing that at Tottenham. That's why you're seeing the likes of Vicario and Romero nearly having a WWE match after keeping a clean sheet or a win. A lot of the players high-fiving each other and stuff like that. Now, look, my dad's of a generation where he goes, look, Dave, that's a load of bollocks. All it is for the cameras, which I understand to a degree. But there has to be that element of friendship. There's no way you're that calculated and you go, right, let's go over and high-five him and look like there's togetherness. They're genuinely, you can see it with the roars and passions on their faces. They're genuinely a lot of them have the same goal and want to build towards something. And let's hope that this can push us over the line this season, Dark Sun G. Really appreciate the support. And I can't wait to see what Porro and Sonny have in store for us this season. Dark Sun G, actually, though, one question I do have just quickly for you as well is, with you being out in Korea, now remember last time we went out there in 2022, Son came back and was absolutely shattered after the preseason, and it took him about 4 or 5 months to really sort of find his legs and get going again. And he took a lot on, and personally, he gave a lot to fans and stuff like that, which is absolutely brilliant. Do you think that the club should monitor his workload a little bit more this time? Or do you think the fact that he is back in Korea, that, he should be doing all of this stuff, to show support and thank you to his fans? Let me know, because it's a hard one to balance, Dark Sun G, right? We want him to show the love, but also we need him to be able to perform on the football pitch and not be shattered from it. So let me know your thoughts on that, my man. Really appreciate the support there. And then he also says, it's only been 2 years since Spurs came to Korea. However, it is a completely different squad, physically, mentally. Youth and Deadwood, like Dyer and Sanchez, gone. And you're right, there has been a lot of changes in terms of the squad and the personnel. And hopefully it works out for the betterment. I had someone in my comments the other day coming in going, you said when Dyer and all that leave, things are going to get better. It hasn't, blah, blah, blah. I'm sort of looking at it and going, we went from 8th to 5th. How have things not got better? I don't understand it. I guess there's some people that will always look for a reason to be angry. But for me, that's progress. Okay, you can argue that it's minimal progress. But at the end of the day, it's progress and shows we're heading in the right direction. And hopefully we can keep doing that, Dark Sun G. I came out with maybe a famous quote there a few years ago where I said I actually hate most of this Tottenham squad in terms of the players. Hated them. I'm actually at a point now where I like the vast majority of it. Don't get me wrong, there's still work to do. But I like the vast majority of it. I want to root for them. I'm behind them. If they tell me to jump, I'm going to ask how high. It doesn't matter whether I'm standing under a shelter or not. I'll jump. It doesn't matter, Dark Sun G. And I think you're right. Lastly, I wonder will we get any more videos. Remember Conte ran the absolute nuts off them there last year. You know, some of them were getting sick at the end. I wonder will we see any more of that coming out, Dark Sung G. Then we've got this from Paul Markey. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Did you see how good Gio was throughout the Copa? I'll say it again. We need Ange to motivate and keep him. Paul Markey, you know we agree on an awful lot when it comes to players. I think we have the same sort of thought process. But on this one, I'm going to need you to walk me through it and convince me. What are you seeing that I'm missing, Paul Markey? Because for me, I get it, right? He's an Argentinian international. If he wasn't injured, probably would have had a World Cup and, of course, the recent Copa America under his belt. However, I can only go by and judge him off what I've seen and his contributions to Tottenham. He had one good month under Jose Mourinho, and since then he's been MIA. Yeah, we can put it down to injuries, but at the end of the day, a lot of managers have shipped him out of this club, fucked them off the books. Ange Postecoglou kept him around last season. It was his opportunity. He was injured anytime the opportunities came around for him. And for me, I don't think he affects games anywhere near the way he should with how good people profess him to be. For me, I think Lo Celso epitomizes a bad era at Tottenham where people were here happy to accept the cash but not actually put it in with the effort. And when fans ask for effort, they cry and moan that the fans are asking too much. And for me, I think he needs to go. He's had his time at Tottenham. He hasn't done it. And I think he should be shipped on to a large degree. Now, I know you're probably going to come back and say, well, you said give Reguilon a second opportunity, but Reguilon has been isolated due to box ticking exercise. Lo Celso hasn't. He's been given his opportunity, a second opportunity, and hasn't took it. So look, Paul Markey, let me know why I need to change my mind. What am I missing? Because we agree on a lot of our midfielders, so I need to know where the point of difference, where we're coming from on this, Paul Markey. And then Dark Sun G says, cute, he won Copa, while Saliba, Saka, Gabriel, and Rice didn't. Oh, seeing all them Arsenal players come back trophyless was absolutely a delight, Dark Sung G. I'm not going to lie. You know, if they would have won something, their fans would have been intolerable heading into next season. You know, we've got a Euros winner, this, that, and the other. They'd already be intolerable as is. But, you know, they would have used that again somehow to their advantage. So I'm absolutely buzzing, you know, that they didn't win anything, Dark Sung G. It's a nice feather in the cap. Some Spain have some serious young talent coming through. I wonder why they didn't bring Pedro Porro, though. I wonder what the thinking behind that decision was. But big up, Dark Sun G. Really appreciate the support, brother. Let's keep going through some more of the comments, and then we're going to crack on. We've got Stefan Bloy. He's absolutely gutted with England losing. It's exactly the same as supporting Spurs. And you know what? Brad made a comment sort of similar yesterday, how gutted he was and how frustrating it is when you support two teams that do the same thing, that are always the nearly men or go in with such high promise, always talked about being there in and around, and they never deliver. I get it. But Stefan, my dad, when Ireland was first getting to major tournaments, used to go, and he speaks about them, these stories. They're some of the best days of his life. You know, I get that the frustration is there that you haven't got over the line, especially when it comes to England. But at the end of the day, I think you will reflect and look back that, you know, these have been some of the best days, best journeys of your life. And also, it's not easy to get to international competition finals. It's not. You know, so take pride that you're there, and you probably might get back there again. And you always say, if you're in and around it, eventually you get over the line, Stefan. You just probably need that guy that's going to come in and take it to another level. You look at Spain, they brought in more of an attack-minded manager. Look how he used all of the attacking players available to him. I think England probably need to head in that same direction just to get over the line. I think I think that the defensive football, especially like that, is becoming a bit more outdated, especially with most people now switching to more of an attacking sort of style of football. So I think they probably need to move on for Southgate, and let's see where they go from that. But Stefan, hopefully you're okay, my man. El Chal, big up, Jose. Good to see you. We also have Checkmate 734. England are the international version of Spurs. I don't even want to talk about Harry Kane. I have no love for him anymore since he left and rejected my hair advice and my love. Big up, Mick. Great to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. A regular gamer, as always, good to see you. Paul Greaves, hopefully you're keeping well. I know you were a bit deflated yesterday, so hopefully you're a bit better today. Thomas, as always, good to see you. He says, Lo Celso doesn't fit into Spurs. Paul Markey, I'm waiting for you to convince me, my man. Please let me know what I'm missing. And then we've got this from Wilton. He says, Dave, we have to learn to walk before we can run. I think we are on track. I have not seen anything from Lo Celso. It's clearly a case where he's not suitable for the club. But you know what? Paul Markey's not the only one that makes the case. Jose all last season was giving me headaches, banging on about it and stuff like that, you know. So there's a lot of Spurs fans that do have the opinion of maybe giving him a second chance. So I have my opinion on it, of course, but I want to maybe give them a chance to explain themselves or hear where they're coming from. Maybe I've missed something. So we're going to leave that up to Paul Markey, Wilton. Let's see if he can change our mind. And then Steve D, member for 20 months. Really appreciate this longevity, Steve D. Says, hello, big man. Hope you're well, mate. I'm absolutely buzzing, Paul, or Steve. Football is back, as I know I've had to endure pain for the Euros. Really worrying Euros. Now that that's over and done with, pre-season's back, Tottenham's back. This is what I live for, my man. Every single year, I look forward to it. I'm so down when the summer's happening. You know, I live for Tottenham being back, and I know it's silly because it's pre-season. However, it's great. You know, all my dreams can become, you know, dreams again. You know, they're not tarnished by what's gone on over the season. So let's wait and see what happens, Steve D. But I've no doubt you'll keep me grounded over the course of the season, Steve D. And San Antonio Hotspur, law of facts, I love Arsenal tears. So do I. And I'm not going to lie, I love Pickford's tears as well. If anyone remembers him against, what was it, Slovakia? He was on the ground, spazzing them out, doing all this mad stuff, you know, celebrating, rocking his head back and forth. He looked like a right loser. You know, he looked like a guy that played for a relegation team. The fact that he celebrated that, like that, beating Slovakia in the manner they did. Delighted to see his tears. Karma's, you know, a B is what they say, isn't it? I can't finish the word, but it's a B, isn't it? So, you know, swings and roundabouts. And then Dark Sung G says, last time Conte used Son as a left midfielder, while Perisic was left wing, so that combination didn't work out. While Son was playing with that injury, that needed surgery. Do you know what? Actually, you raised a very fair point there. You know, he did come into the season needing surgery, but that was last season, right? That I'm not sure if that was the 2022 season. I know last season under Ange, he came in off the back of surgery, was late to preseason as well because of the surgery and stuff like that. But look, maybe you're right. Maybe it was more to do with the tactical of Son playing left mid and Perisic playing left wing, and that didn't work out. Right. Rather than maybe it be the workload, Dark Sun G. Maybe you're right on that. Maybe you're right. But thank you for getting back and answering my question. Really, really appreciate that, lad. And then we have this one from Paul Markey. But Dark Sun G, let me know, you know, because do you think that the workload maybe took a toll on it? Let me know. But I do think you raise a very valid point there about the tactics. And also, with Son getting another year older, what's his best position heading into this season? Left wing or striker? And then Paul Markey has got back to me. He says, can't say it any clearer. Stepped into Messi's shoes in the final and controlled the midfield with a fantastic assist and did the same throughout their tournament. Interesting. Very interesting. Look, I did watch the first game against Canada. You know, Argentina should have scored a lot more goals than what they did. I'd argue Canada also could have been 3 or 4 up before Argentina really got going. But I haven't really followed much of them really over the rest of this competition. More been keeping an eye on the Euros, Paul Markey. Look, with Lo Celso, there's no doubt that technically he's a good player, right? He can do all the basics very well, get on the ball, you know, move it about and stuff like that. But when I look at Lo Celso, I just want a bit more out of him, maybe dictate the games a little bit more and stuff like that. And look, to be fair, when he's on the pitch, a lot of the time he works hard as well. But for me, it's just how many more opportunities are we going to give this guy? How many more times are we going to get down on our knees, beg him and say, please, Gio, get out there and perform for us this season. Go out there and rip it up. I'm past that point. I was past that point a long time ago, Paul. I'm of the opinion now, if you come in and you don't perform after 2 years, out you go. That's the way we need to do it. Look how swiftly, you know, Man City got rid of Calvin Phillips. Come in, not performing, out you go. We need to sort of try and do the same if we can, Paul Markey. Look, let's see what he does pre-season. But it's up to him to change my mind at this point. If he goes out there pre-season and bosses it, I'll give him another opportunity, but I really need to see it from him. There's no doubt that there's a player in there, but does he have that love for the game at Tottenham Hotspur? And if you don't, he's never, ever going to give his best in the Tottenham jersey, and that's where maybe my concern probably more lies, Paul Markey. And then we've got this from Dark Sun G, definitely left wing because Son isn't strong to beat 2 centre-backs. Completely agree with you, I think. And look, let's face it, it wasn't 2 most of last season, it was 3. Most of them opting to play 3 across the back last season. And ultimately, they just swamp them up. 3 6'4" guys, just swamp them up. You're absolutely spot on. Son is dangerous when he's free and able to run at them. That's where we get the best out of him, Dark Sun G. And hopefully, we can revert him back to that position this this season. And then Paul Markey, let me know what that was supposed to be a response to, my man. Big yourselves up. But guys, let's get cracking. Let's get on the first guest and let's hear what they have to say. Dermotron, how you keeping, my man?
Not too bad. This is a bit like my pre-season, coming back first on the fan show. So yeah, looking forward to this. How are you? How's your summer been?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been difficult because I was hoping for transfer news and, you know, to come into the season with a bit more joy about me, sit here and sing about Eze and stuff like that. Maybe a new striker in the door. Hasn't happened. There's various reasons why. But look, let's start with it, I suppose. Are you frustrated, or do you think maybe even Ange Postecoglou might be frustrated with how little progress we've made in terms of the squad? He made it no secret at the back end of last season in many interviews that, you know, this squad needs to be rotated. You know, it's nowhere near where he wants it. Do you think there's an air of frustration with Ange?
Not really, no, because every team's in the same boat. The transfers, what I can tell you, the transfers are there nearly to be finished up. So most of the legwork's been done on 2 or 3 of them. It's just because players have been away at Euros and Copa America that haven't got a chance to speak to them. I think Ange is quite well aware that you can't get business done when there's international tournaments on, because players don't want to be stuck by their agents. They want to concentrate on with their national teams. And I think that the players we have got in, the likes of Archie Gray and Bergville was done last season. Archie Gray was done pretty quickly. So it does prove that we can get work done. I'm expecting in the next week, or even before we go away, 1 or 2 more signings to be in the door before we leave for a pre-season tour. So I think that will happen.
I really do hope so, because they don't really have too much time to do it. I think they might be flying out Monday or Tuesday for the pre-season tour to Japan and Korea. So they don't have much time to get it over the line. So it'll be very interesting. I think, obviously, look, if we're going for Eze, it depends on, you know, whether he's instructed his agent that he wants a break in a football before he decides anything and stuff like that. Let's wait and see. But it'd be interesting, you know, to see what, you know, maybe get some quotes off Ange Postecoglou after the game tomorrow, maybe see where he's at with it. But Dermo, first game against Hearts Wednesday night. Are you excited?
I cannot wait. I told you about, I spoke to you today how excited I am about Spurs back. It's been a boring summer. I mean, to be fair, I didn't really watch a lot of the Euros. Didn't even really watch a lot of the Copa America. I just want my team back. I want Tottenham back, and we're getting them back. I cannot wait for the first pre-season game. I cannot wait for the first proper watch along. And it's great. Spurs is our second love. Spurs is our second family. And in between the end of May and June, we're a bit down. We get a bit of withdrawal symptoms. And then you hit July. Firstly, you get the fixtures. That starts the blood sort of bumping again. Then you get the 1st of July. You see the players coming back. And then you know pre-season is. So, yeah, I can't wait. And I can't wait for the start of the season. I'm just so looking forward. This season's going to be room for one hell of a ride. And I'm very optimistic about this season.
What gives you that optimism? Look, obviously I get the air of excitement with the season coming back. I think many people share that. But what gives you the optimism that this season's going to be any different or any better to last season, you know, considering we haven't moved much in the window so far?
It's what Ange did last season. Is what I've seen Tottenham players. It's what I've seen Ange do, and he's done it at Celtic and he's doing it at Tottenham. And I've seen him doing it. And I know what he can do. So that's why I'm optimistic, because I know what Ange can do. And if Ange can get the players in he wants, which I know he will, and he gets at the deadwood like I know he has, then we should be optimistic. And we should be looking forward to it, because Tottenham are going to be a force this season. I think we're really out. We had a season last season where it started great, then we had the troubles. It ended great. It shows we are going on the right path. And if we keep going on the right path and following Ange's words, then I think there's no ceiling that we can't break. And look. And I think you always got to be optimistic. I mean, I'm delusional anyway, but look, I'm always optimistic when it comes to Spurs.
No, look, I get it. Look,
Yeah.
a part of being a fan, Dermo, is having the hopes, the dreams, and that's what it is, dreams and stuff like that, that you can achieve the impossible, that this year is going to be your year. It's part of hopes and aspirations, is part of being a fan. I completely get it. It's just, for me, I just need a couple more signings in the door to say, we can be, we can improve on what we done last year.
Yeah.
But next thing I want to ask you about, Dermo, is tactics. Look, Ange Postecoglou came in for a lot of scrutiny last season since that Chelsea game for a lot of his tactics. People call him tactical and naive. Do you expect him to change anything this season? A lot of people may be questioning why the two centre-backs have been so exposed. Centre midfielders being allowed to push up high along with both full-backs. Do you expect to see any tweaks there?
Well, what the fans want. We were complaining when it was defensive, and we were moaning on the Mourinho, moaning on the Nuno, moaning on the Conte. And then we get an attacking manager in, and they're still moaning that he's still attacking. And he's too gung-ho. So what do you want? You can't have one or the other. I agree with Ange. Why should Ange change? Why should he change? The players should change for him. He shouldn't change for the players. That's been the problem with too many Spurs managers. They change. And Ange has come in and says, I'm changing for no one. And why should he? Why he's been successful with the way he plays. He's been successful in the way he sets up his teams. Okay, not everyone's going to be happy with it. But why? I don't think he should change, and I think he should stay as he is. And look, we were complaining on Mourinho, Conte, Nuno, boring football. We had attacking football. We're going to win. We're going to win more than you're going to lose. Tottenham tradition is to attack. Is to play with flair and attack. We got our Tottenham back last season. I don't want to go back to Nuno or Mourinho or Conte football. I want Ange ball, and just keep it at that. And you're never going to please everyone. That's the problem. You're never going to please every fan. So there's going to be fans that don't like it. It's going to be fans that want them to change, and fans that do like it. So it's football, isn't it? It's all about opinions. It's all about different opinions, but I just think stay as it is. Do not change.
Do you know, for me, Darmo, I think when it comes to that, I don't think he's going to change his style or his approach.
No.
I don't think he's going to change it according to whoever we're playing up against each week. I think he's going to stick to his philosophy. This is how we want to play. It's up to you to go and execute it. If we don't, find solutions to it and get it to the way it should be looking. But I do think there's maybe a certain tweak he maybe might need to make in terms of defensively. And I'm not talking about, people sitting back and stuff like that. I'm talking about maybe one of the fullbacks, like at Man City, come inside to create that tree and give them that extra body. Maybe a DM who sits in front and screens that back line with great effect, the way Rodri does, or Declan Rice for Arsenal to a large degree, the way Kante has done for Leicester and Chelsea and France for many years. But I think maybe there is something he can do there. But in terms of approach, he's not going to change it. And I agree with that. He shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. I do agree. He probably had to. It's a lot different from Scottish football to the Premier League. So there was a learning curve. But he may have to tweak it slightly, but I don't think he should change. And look, I can remember, I grew up with Tottenham playing flair football. There's a lot of, Wilton says, there's a lot of younger generation just remember Mourinho, Conte. And Poch was probably their first bit of seeing as how we play. I remember watching that in the 80s. And I remember watching, and we had the players to defend, we had the players to attack. JTB spot on, it's all about balance. And once Ange gets his players in, we'll get the balance, and he can then play the way he wants to play. Once you have the players that can defend and do their jobs, then you can attack, because back there, you've got a man's going to sit there. You've got your back four, your back five, including your goalkeeper. And I think you can be successful. Tottenham's built on flair. To dare is to do. That's our motto. It's not to dare is to defend and make us boring and fall asleep. To dare is to do. That is the Tottenham way. And she's brought us back to what we believe in, which is to dare is to do. And a lot of fans forget that. And you just can't moan about one thing and then moan about something else. you either want defensive football or you want attacking football. There is an in between, but you can't just moan about, oh, we were boring under Conte and Mourinho, and now we're too attacking under Ange. You know, today is to do that as our motto.
Look, I think it just needs a bit of patience, to be brutally honest with you. It's like any manager that comes in here that wants to implement a style and philosophy, within a few weeks or as soon as it goes around, we're very quick to turn around and go, scrap that, go with something completely different than what we've actually hired you to do. We forget that these managers have had an interview process, put their plans forward, and that plan is the basis on what they've been hired, you know, to implement at Tottenham. But yet, as soon as it goes wrong, we want, for instance, we asked Conte to go more attacking, now we ask Postecoglou to go more defensive, which I don't understand. But I do agree that there should be some tweaks within that would help shore us up, help maybe make us a bit more solid, and hopefully, you know, make us harder to beat and harder to break down, and you know, hopefully turn the ball over a lot more, which in will help us get at teams a lot higher up the pitch. So hopefully that does happen. But Dermot, last question I have for you, my man. You've mentioned that flair is a part of Tottenham's DNA for the, you know, twice so far over this call.
Yeah.
Do Tottenham simply have enough flair? Like, if we're talking about flair for me is the likes of David Ginola, Aaron Lennon, Gareth Bale, you know, some of Tottenham's greatest ever wingers that I've watched, you know, that produce magic on a regular basis. Do we have enough of that, though?
No, I mean, I could go back to watching Tony Galvin, Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardiles, players like that when I was a youngster watching Tottenham, and then growing up watching Chrissy Waddle and Paul Gascoigne, and then you got Modric. And we need, I think, Bergville's going to be that type of flair player we need. We need Maddison to turn up this season and show us what he can really do, because he can turn a game on the sixpence when he's on it. I think we will get there. I think with the youngsters coming through as well, and I think you got to be so careful with the youngsters, because you've got to have a mixture of youngsters and experience. If you get that balance right, and you get them the like Nick says, Eze, Neto. We're in for, I mean, Fabrizio Romero said about we're still in for Neto and Eze. You get them in. And you get your attack and balance right. We need a striker. If we can get a striker and get the wingers working, get the attacking midfielders working, we are going to be one hell of a side to watch next season. And, you know, how many times did I say to you, Dave, during the dark days, my Tottenham, I want my Spurs back.
Yeah,
I got my Tottenham back last season, and I'm so pleased to have it back. I'm a Spurs. I was mourning the loss of my club. I now don't have to mourn anymore because my club's back, and it's going to be a great season. I can't wait. Can't wait for Hearts. Pre-season, you don't really look into it. It's all about preparing for Leicester. It's all about getting things. But I want us to win. I want us to have a good pre-season and be there on the Monday Night Football on the 17th of August, I think, or the 18th, 19th of August, I think, is to kick the ball, beat Leicester, and let's start the season with a win. Yeah. Because I cannot wait.
Look, that'd be absolutely lovely. What I would say just quickly is I don't think we're back fully yet, but we're going in that direction. There's still a long way to go. But Dermo, just quickly, why do people need to get over and subscribe, my man? And thank you very much for giving up your time and calling in this evening.
No problem. Firstly, few people in the comments, what am I sitting in? I'm not in a spaceship, right? Okay. This is a new OBS. Dave uses it as well, but I've got a few studios I'm using for new season, new graphics I'm coming up with and everything. So this is what this is all about. It's still work in progress. But if you want to know what I have to say in Spurs and you like what I have to say, please get over to THFC Till I Die, your home of Tottenham past, present, and an exciting future. You've got myself there. You've got Philip Brady. Tequila's joined the channel. We've got Colin as well from Full Time Sports Network and Carl Simpson when he makes an appearance. We're trying to get to 2K. We're up 1,840, I think. So please hit that subscription button. I would love to get to 1,900 before the start of the season. And if I can get there, and it's our birthday next month, so I'd love to get to 2K for the channel's third birthday. So please hit a like and subscribe, please. I'd be really grateful if you do.
Love that. Love that, guys.
Oh, sorry, Dave, one more thing as well. We also got a new channel starting up as well, European football network till we die, where we're going to cover other football as well. So Tottenham's just for Tottenham, and the new channels for everything else. So we've got 2 new channels starting up this season. So lots of football coming our way on our neck of the woods.
Plenty of football coming your way. But guys, please get across, check out Dermot's channel and his new channel as well for all European football. Dermot, gentleman, thank you for giving up your time. I'll see you Wednesday for the pre-match build-up.
Yeah. Did I pass pre-season all right? Did I pass the test all right? The pre-season test now. Look,
let me know next time and give me a checklist of what you want me to grade you on, and I'll sit here and grade you as we go through if you want. But big up, Dermot. Thank you very much for that.
Take care. All right. Speak to you later. All right.
Have a good one. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Everybody do get across and check out Dermot's channel. Tyler says he's looking good, which he is. And DB says one of the good guys. Big up, DB. And then Paul O'Connor as well and Nick Carey. Absolutely love it. But guys, we're going to keep this going. We're going to keep cracking on. With next guest we do have is Eddie from Australia. His birthday was somewhat during the week, guys. So, make sure you wish him a happy belated birthday there. But let's keep it going. Edward, good to see you this evening, my man. How are you keeping?
I'm good. Yeah, my birthday was almost 2 weeks ago, but all the same.
A great time I have, right? Time's flying by, so it shows how much of a great time I have. But look, I mean, Eddie, where do you want to kick this off? Where do you want to lead this to? Do you want to talk about preseason? Do you want to talk about maybe the transfer window, or the lack of transfer window so far? What needs to change heading into this season? Where do you want to kick it off?
We'll kick off with preseason. It has been a slow preseason. That's for sure. We only signed officially one player. Of course, we know we got Barvell that technically came in this preseason, but he was signed back in January. We got Werner coming back, which I'm probably one of the few excited about Werner coming back. But that's another talk for another day.
I don't mind having that conversation. Why are you excited about Werner coming back? Because you know what? Look, I'll kick it off. For me, I don't understand why we've brought him back here. I don't understand what he brings. I don't think, the biggest question mark on his arrival, Eddie, was his finishing. Is he going to bring the goals, and the assist that Tottenham front line needs? Is he going to be any better than what we've seen at Chelsea and at Leipzig since he's returned? And I don't think we have. And for me, them question marks are still there. And when I look at him, right, he's a player in his prime. And this is his prime. This is him in his prime. Many people are clinging on to the fact that we might get the player that was at Leipzig before he made the move to the Premier League. So for someone like me, who's a serious doubter of Timo Werner and him being able to change Tottenham fortunes going forward, why are you excited to see him?
Well, back when he was playing for Chelsea and Leipzig, I'm pretty sure they both played him as a number 9. When I don't think his best position is a number 9. He's a winger. He's a left winger. And I feel like at those clubs, they played more defensive football than Ange, when Ange is all about attack. And I think Werner can thrive with that sort of system when he is just attacking and getting those balls down that wing and actually challenging his man. I think he adds a lot of depth and squad rotation he can do with Son. He adds a bit more of pace there. When Son is with his age, doesn't have that pace anymore, which is really good for Ange Postecoglou's system. If we can get a striker in, I think we'll see the best of Werner, and we'll see Werner actually getting assists and maybe some goals here and there. I'm not asking for him to go out and score 5 to 10 goals this season. That's not the sort of person I am when it comes to my wingers. If my wingers can give assists and can challenge and can take on that man and could just cause problems for that backline, I'm perfectly happy with them not chipping in with goals, as long as they're providing that sort of challenge to that backline and making sure that the opponents are never settled and that they're always wary of them and that they're overcommitting to trying to stop them. That's what I'm looking for Werner. And if he can do that, then I'm really am happy with that sort of run. And he's only a
Do you know what? I hear you to a degree, and I make the same argument for everybody to a large degree, that if they did have a constant presence up front, someone that they could have worked with throughout the season, that I do think it probably would have made all of their, their goal contributions come the end of the season. It would have boosted them a bit more. I would agree with that. And I agree with you to an extent that Werner has a lot of what you want your wingers to have. Pace, and stuff like that. But I just feel like when that decision-making moment comes, 9 times out of 10, he makes the wrong decision. And that's where my problem is. I get that he's rotation to Son and that, but he played a lot of games when he came in as a rotation player last season. And against Newcastle in big games where you can't time your injuries, sometimes you've got players out and you have to rely on these guys. That's where the quality is found wanting, and that's where a lot of the questions come from. But look, do you think that Timo Werner is one of the players that gets too much criticism then?
I think he does. I think he get that sort of criticism from his past with Chelsea and how he did it on his return to Leipzig. I think his past is haunting him. I think his lack of finishing and his lack of ability when it comes to those two teams he played for has chased him. And I honestly do hope that for Spurs, he come out and prove all his haters wrong and prove that he could actually do something for Spurs.
Okay, interesting. But guys, let us know what your thoughts on that in the comments are. Because look, I know there's a lot of people that are going to agree with you on that, Eddie. You know, I'm probably on the outcast or minority in my opinion on Werner. So guys, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. By the way, don't be afraid to get your questions in, you know, that you want me or anybody who else is on screen with me to be able to address and speak about. It's what we're here to do at the end of the day. We've got this from Dark Sun G. Eddie says, I don't know how reliable it is, but apparently Spurs made contact with Juventus for years. I saw it from a tweet from Football Transfers right-wing competition. And do you know what, Eddie? This is one that as soon as I see Fabrizio Romano tweet a few weeks ago, and there's a 25 million release clause, Juventus want him off the books because he's not a part of new manager Thiago Motta's plans. For me, I said, look, forget someone like Pedro Neto and stuff like that with his injury crisis. Go and get someone like Chiesa. This is proper competition for places. So Dark Sun G, you know, I would love us to go and get this guy. I really like him. You know, he really lit up Euro 2020. Since then, he's had a bit of a difficult time. He's done his knee in, and also he's playing right wing back under Allegri for some strange reason, which I don't understand. But for me, he looks like a player that needs an attacking manager just to give him that big bear hug and say, come here, you're my guy, get out there and reward, you know, show me why you're so grateful for me bringing you in here and giving you that new lease of life. And I think he's just ready to explode again. And I would put that 25 million down all day long and bring him in here. But that's Sung G. That's my opinion. Let's hear what Eddie has to say.
I actually saw that tweet and I was kind of licking my lips when I saw that. I was like, 25 million, I think it was euros too, for Chiesa. That's relatively cheap for a very quality right winger who also has that sort of experience with him. He's the experienced right winger. He's definitely someone we need to come into the squad and help the our younger crops fit into the squad, because we got a bunch of young talents that will definitely play this season. We got Barwell, we got Mikey Moore, Tyrese Hall, Jamie Donnelly might make it, but Ashley Phillips, Dorrington, list goes on. There's so many players that we can see this season. And I think Chiesa, with his sort of experience, can definitely help these youths to settle in. And he can definitely provide competition for that right spot, because I don't see Kulu on the right next season. I think we'll see him in the center. I think we'll see him as a striker, actually. I think we'll more likely see him as that sort of striker. That's why I don't feel like we've seen that many links with a striker at the moment, is because Kulu is probably going to be the striker with Witchy. That's just something to throw out there, but definitely not what I want, but just something I think of. But I definitely can see Chiesa coming in here and challenging and actually doing well in this sort of system. But he is that sort of player who would thrive in an attacking system, and I think Ange will get the best out of him.
I'm of the same opinion on that one, Eddie. And Dark Sung G, glad to see you are as well. For me, bringing in, I think a lot of fans would actually be happy with that signing overall as well. And for the price, I don't think it's an opportunity that we should be passing up or missing out on. I know people have their, thoughts on Kulusevski and Bentancur, but they have made an initial impact in helping push this club forward. And I think Chiesa is another one out of the Juventus ranks. And Paratici has good ties there that we could get over the line and hopefully push us forward. And one that I'd be very excited about for sure, Dark Sung G. Big yourself up, my man, and really appreciate support. Also, let's know, I think it's definitely a no-brainer if the plan is to move Kulusevski up front. let's speak about that, Eddie, because I'm of the same opinion. Look, I've been of that opinion most of last season. Stop playing Son up front, move Kulu up there. Kulu keeps telling us he's a cam, and every time I hear it, I cringe. I'm like, Kulu, you're not a cam, you're a striker. Look at your body type, look at the way you play. You're very similar to Harry Kane in the way you can. You're not the quickest, but you can hold up players. You've got intelligence up here and stuff like that. For me, he suits as a striker. Two prime examples. Luton when Basuma got sent off. Kulusevski was absolutely outstanding that day, single-handedly holding up the ball and driving forward, dragging Tottenham up the pitch, releasing pressure on the back line and everybody else, allowing us a chance to get reorganised. His role that day was invaluable. Also, against Sheffield United, end of the season, 2 goals. I looked at it and said, fuck me, did we re-sign Harry Kane? Did we bring him back? It was absolutely unbelievable. And I'm of the opinion, again, we're not being linked to many strikers. I think he can play there. Dark Sun G, let me know your thoughts on that. But Eddie, if Kulu is repurposed as a striker, it does go against something that really annoys me at this club, that we constantly repurpose players rather than just go out and buy a player for that position. If Kulusevski ends up making up the numbers being a striker next year, is that a concern on your behalf? Does that show enough ambition by this football club?
I don't know. The number 9s at the moment in the market are very scarce to come by. Like, there's not many clubs looking to ship their number 9s out. At the moment, the only number 9 that comes to my head that clubs are looking to sell is probably Vlahovic from Juventus or Tony from Brentford. Those are the only 2 number 9s I can see clubs wanting to sell. And both of those number 9s won't come cheap. They'll both be 40 million pounds easily. But I wouldn't say lack ambition. I think it would be more as a cost saving, because we do have other positions we need to go and get. We need to go grab wingers. We need to go grab a competition for fullbacks, and maybe another left-sided centre back. We do need to go grab those. So we can't just say go out and spend 60 million on a striker this window, as much as I would love us to. Like, it would help us so much. But I wouldn't say no to repurposing Kulu up front. I think like he would do quite well in that sort of position under Ange. You saw him throughout the whole season. He was so much better than center. Even when he wasn't a striker, he was in the center as a cam. He still played better than he did on the right wing. He's too predictable on the right wing. He always would just cut in on his left and try and cross it. It didn't always work out, and it was very predictable, and people would just cut off his lane to advance. And that's not what we need on a right wing. That's why I always thought Johnson was such a better winger than Kulu, because he actually got down that byline and, at least tried to cross the ball in. Not to many people liking, but he's at least tried to get the ball in. When Kulu didn't, Kulu would cut in on his left and try and take on his man and get in on goal, and rarely worked. Like, I rarely saw Kulu being able to take his man on and get a goal off. I think there was like a goal I saw that I remember seeing of him actually doing that well. Every other time he's failed. So I would, and he's a smart footballer, and that's what Swedish players are. They're smart footballers. They are very smart, and I can see him playing really well in the center if Ange wants him to. But we'll see come Hearts. We'll see where he plays.
Well, it'd be interesting to see who does play up front, because, it sort of ties in with what Thomas was asking here. Where's Richarlison? And from what my understanding is, he was on the sidelines watching the Cambridge game, and there's no real confirmed reports whether he made an appearance in the second half or not. But from my understanding is he's still coming back from that injury that kept him out of the Copa America. So I think that's where we're at with that at this stage right now in terms of Richie, as far as my understanding is, Thomas. There's not much clarity around that situation. I guess we'll know more Wednesday, whether he's available, whether he plays, whether he doesn't. If he doesn't, we'll obviously have to get an explanation to his absentee. So we'll probably find out more Wednesday on that one, Thomas. But you know what? I'm conflicted on this, because I do think Kulusevski, in years to come, will probably end up playing striker. And in this Ange system, you're right. Look, I think Kulusevski's a good player. There's no doubt about it. But with this Ange system, maybe he doesn't do or provide what Ange wants from his wingers, which is clear, to go on the outside and get the balls low in and across the box. Kulusevski, because he's playing on the right side, wants to quicken on his left. So either they need to look at him playing down the left in future or another position for him in this hand system. But you know what, Eddie? Really enjoyed this conversation, my man. Thank you very much. Really great conversation. And thank you for your time, and we'll speak again soon. Come on, you
Yes, speak again soon. Come on, your Spurs.
Big up, Eddie. And I really appreciate your help on Tifo as well over the Euros, Eddie. Absolute legend. Great conversation there, guys. Really, really enjoyed that one. We've got this from Rayman. Rayman, we'll start this with the next guest that comes in. Where am I in my order? I'm with Paul. Let's hear what Paul has to say. First of all, Paul, commiserations yesterday. I know it's really upsetting. But look, how are you keeping first? Oh, you're on mute.
I do that all the time. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, no, good. Well, look, let's kick it off with Rayman's question, and then we'll go off wherever you want to go with it, Paul. He says, do you think the Romero needs to move media talk is going to ramp up towards the end of the summer window?
For me, this is very much like what the media did with Kane. It was always like, he's got to go to win trophies. He's got to go to do this. He's never going to win anything at Spurs. I can't see Romero going anywhere, to be honest, at the minute, because yes, he's one of the best defenders in the world, but he's playing every single game at Spurs. If he goes to the likes of Real Madrid, he isn't going to be playing every single game. You know, so it all comes down to, I think, the player, and I think Romero wants to play week in, week out. And I can see him being our next club captain, to be honest. I think once Sonny gets, you know, to the point where he starts to tail off, and I think this is why we're being linked with left wingers, because we're actually planning for Son going instead of leaving it until we sell him and then wait 5 seasons before we replace him. You know, I think we're looking at doing that now, getting players settled into the squad, which is a good sign to see. Yeah, but I can see Romero being the next club captain, to be honest.
Do you know what on this one, Rain, man? Look, you know what, Paul? I wouldn't mind him being club captain to a degree because, you know, the guy's a natural born winner, and you know I'd love to have someone like him who wants to win at all cost. It doesn't matter if he'll do the most sinful thing if it means winning. I wouldn't mind that as a club captain. But when it comes to Romero talk, look, I've always backed Romero. I've always said there's shades of a world class player in there, and you know probably will end up becoming world class. And it's no surprise that a lot of the biggest clubs around the world are looking at this guy. You're talking about a guy that's won a World Cup, had a really good campaign for Tottenham Hotspur, and has gone and won a Euros. And not only that, you're talking about, you know, modern day centre-backs being good on the ball. Not only is this guy competent in controlling and passing, he's got a passing range, he's confident to take on players, and he can play up the other end as well. He's all around absolutely unbelievable. And I'm going to say he is the meanest centre-back in world football in terms of tackles. No striker wants to come up against him because of how hard he hits. So it's only natural that the best clubs in the world are going to be tracking this guy. But unless Tottenham win something and get over the line, you're always going to see this with Tottenham's best players, because the big clubs who win trophies see Tottenham as a club where they feel like they can pick their players out. Don't get me wrong, Daniel Levy is going to make it notoriously hard, and he's made it harder for clubs to do that. But at the end of the day, my fear is with Levy, once the right price that he's got in his mind comes in, he'll always sell. And my problem with that is when we were building a new stadium, we were told that revenue, they were going to do everything they can to keep these sort of players at this club and build around it. Now, they already went against it with Harry Kane, so chances are they'll go against it with everybody. And that's my concern. But I just hope that Romero loves us, you know, and loves the adulation that the fans gives him. And hopefully Ange Postecoglou is a massive factor in keeping him around here, man. Let's wait and see. But look, Paul, where do you want to take this discussion, my man? What's on your mind?
I've seen it all over social media channels, various different other channels, and we're talking about buying Eze, and you know everyone's really excited. But then I see some fans going, "Well, where would he play in our system? He can't replace Maddison. He can't do this." And I'm like, "Well, Maddison didn't exactly have a great season last year." You know, and he struggled to play 20 odd games, and then he was out for the rest of it, and he was never the same after the first 10 games. So what happened to the other 30 games? You know, it's to me, Eze walks into our team in any way, shape or form. he walks straight into that starting 11, whether it's on the right wing, left wing, Maddison's position. You know, to me, he walks straight in. I just can't believe that some fans think, where would he play in our team? I'm just like, really?
Do you know what, for me, lad? Look, of course, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm sure I say a lot of things that people disagree with, you know, and get angry about some things I say, right? So everyone's entitled to their opinions. But one thing I don't get is, who cares where he's going to fit in? It's not our job. We just want good players that are good on the eye to watch. It's up to the manager to fit them in. And even if he doesn't fit in straight away, how good would it be to turn to the bench and feel like you've got a game changer off the bench in Eze if he doesn't walk into that 11? You know, stuff that we haven't really had in years gone by. Players that you can say, fuck me, get him the ball. He's going to change the complete context of this game. You know, so I don't understand it either personally. You know, we moan about wanting really good, exciting, sort of on the verge of world-class players in here, and then, you know, we worry about where he's going to fit in. I don't understand it, Paul.
I just don't get it. And it's kind of frustrating, because if we had the best 11 in the league, we'd have won it. We finished 5th. You know, so obviously we don't have the best players in midfield. We don't have the best strikers. You know, yes, we might have 1 or 2, you know, that are really good on their day. But what player, apart from Son, has actually performed consistently every single week and given 110% for the shirt? I can't name one that was in the midfield last season. Midfield and up front, there wasn't one. You know, and then we see players like Johnson have a blinding game, for example. Then everyone's going, oh, he's played absolutely brilliant. You're all in the wrong. And then the next 6 weeks, he plays like he's in League Two.
Yeah.
You know, so I just want to see players come in that want to play for the shirt and give 110% every game. You know, they might not be these big name players that we find, but players like Romero, Mickey van der Ven, you know, when they score, you can see them, how much it means to them. You know, with the likes of Sonny when he goes through and scores, or, you know, if there's, you know, we concede, you know, you can see that, you can see him, right, we're going to go for this now. We've got to get into it. I don't want to see him go, oh, they've scored, oh, well. You know, and they just carry on doing what they were doing. And that was part of the problem last season, you know, especially towards the end. Watched a lot of the games and the players were just passing it around like the season was already over. And yes, I know we didn't have a lot to play for, but we did, you know, in league position. You know, yeah, we might not have been in the title race, but at least show up to these games. Do you know what I mean? And the fans that go and watch these games week in, week out, they're the ones I felt sorry for, because they were just passing it around and it was just so boring to watch. It was a bit like watching England, to be fair.
Do you know what? And when football is played like that, it does look like players are going through the motions. And there's no doubt towards the end of last season, especially after some of the big games where we incurred losses, and maybe some players were starting to go through the motions. But that's always allowed to happen unless you build a squad which creates competition. If you don't create that, and they look behind them and go, it doesn't matter because this guy's going to come in, you know, it doesn't matter how long he gets. He's going to cause a load of mistakes. The fans are going to be on his back and they're going to be begging for me to get back. You know, what we need is competition, that almost when these guys are out, they're motivated to get back even earlier because they don't want to lose their spot. And I don't feel like that happens at Tottenham as Hotspur, especially maybe since the Pochettino era. And hopefully this season we can get back to that. But that all comes through competition. And that's why signing someone like Eze and people like that would be huge towards that. Imagine having Eze and Maddison both on their toes. You know, it'd be absolutely unbelievable. Paul, any other senior players in the squad that maybe you're looking to really step up this year? That there was a lot of criticism around last year. I'm dropping a video tomorrow morning. In it, I've got Kulusevski, Bentancur, Maddison, Kulusevski, Bentancur, Maddison. Do you know what? I can't even remember who the other. Basuma is the other one, and Richarlison. They're the 5 that I've picked out that I think need to have a massive preseason this season. Is there anyone outside of that list that maybe you've picked out and say, hang on, he let us down last year. He needs to have a really good season this season?
It's hard to say. You know, it's like, obviously, I don't want to see us drop the ball in midfield as much as we did. So you've already got them with the likes of Basuma, Bentancur, Johnson, I want to see a lot more out of this season. You know, he's had the season to settle in where I haven't really said much or watched him or, you know, given him grief. But this season he needs to step up. You know, if he's supposed to be this player and, you know, at least get shots on target, that's what I want to see more of this year. Same with Werner. I have no reason to why we've re-signed him, to be honest. The only thing I can think of is they didn't want to sign him because they've got the likes of Mikey Moore and stuff coming through that are not going to be ready for this season, but they're going to get blooded this season, ready to step into the fold for next season. That's the only thing I can think of to why he's here.
But you know what on that though, Paul? I hear it, and you know, that is an argument that has been made. But the way I look at it, what good is it giving someone else another year to develop? Why not develop them over that year and give them that game time? That game time that Werner's going to get is going to be more beneficial to these youngsters' development rather than just pushing it down the line another year. And all of a sudden, they reach Troy Parrott's age. They haven't had a minute of first-team football, you know, and all of a sudden they're fucked off, and all the potential and the noise that they came through with is absolutely wasted, you know. So is that not just prolonging actually developing these guys by doing that? No.
No, because I don't think it's going to play out that way. I think the likes of Mikey Moore and all of these sort of players, they are going to get minutes this season. You know, I just personally think Werner's there for the likes of if Son picks up an injury, because these players can't play. You know, they're young. They're not going to be able to play 50-odd game seasons and 90 to 100 minutes of football every game. You know, I can see Werner being a sub a lot of the times. You know, when Sonny's getting tired towards the end of games, or, you know, but for physical minutes, I think it'd be the other way around. I think Werner's more there as a cover to cover these youngsters if they get knackered, or, you know, they might pick up a little knock. Sonny might pick up a knock. That's the only reason I can see him there. I can't see him picking up the amount of minutes he got this season, in all honesty, especially if we bring the likes of Eze in and Neto and stuff like that. He's basically going to be third choice. So
look, that's it. That's if we bring them in. If we don't, you know, you can't predict injuries, and you can't, you know, the guy's going to end up playing a lot more minutes than what we think he might, Paul. Look, let's wait and see what happens when it comes to Timo Werner. But Paul, really appreciate your time this evening, my man, coming on straight after work and having this conversation with me, keeping me going. Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you again very soon, I'm sure. Yeah,
no doubt. Thanks for having me on, Dave. Come on, you Spurs.
Oh, let's bloody go.
Come on, let's go.
That's what we're talking about. See that smile on his face? He's pumped, guys. That's what we want to see, Paul. Thank you very much, sir.
See you later, mate.
See you, my man. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Jeez, Spurs fans are on smoke, you know, a few months without Tottenham, and they're all on here, you know, having great conversations. It's absolutely brilliant to see 3 good conversations back to back. Dermo, Eddie, and Paul, and all have been on different things, which have been absolutely fantastic. We're going to keep this going, guys. We've got 3 more guests in the background with Michael, Sean, and Sam. Not sure what variation they're coming on. You know, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm just waiting to see if Michael still wants to go last or not. But, you know, I will take this opportunity, guys. If you do enjoy these fan shows, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you share it out to others and tell them that, you know, the availability of it. Get on here, have your say. And also, cheeky plug, but why not grab your channel memberships, guys? We're going to have a lot more content geared towards members. Going to be a lot more interaction with you guys this season, even more than what we produced last season. You know, we really try and give you value for your money. So, you know, why not grab a membership, give us a trial run and see what your thoughts are on that. And most importantly, keep getting your questions in for us to discuss. Whatever's on your mind you want to see discussed, get them in now. But look, we will keep it moving and we will keep going. Michael does still want to go last. No problem. So the next person, oh, did I say Sam? I think is the next person on the list. Let me just double check. And by the way, guys, give me a pat on the back. How well am I doing without Jack today? No screw-ups for once. Maybe I spoke too soon. But we'll wait and see. Let's keep going. I think it is Sammy Boy. Let's bring him on. Sammy Boy, how are you keeping, my man?
Yeah, I'm not bad, Dave. How are you?
Not too bad. You get a fresh beard trim, lad. It's looking good.
No, I didn't. I just gave it a little comb before I came on.
It looks fresh. I need to know what oil you're using in that bad boy. Let's have some comparisons. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Just quickly, big up Paul Connor as well, granting somebody a membership. Let me just check who that is, Sammy, and then we will crack on, just because you know us, we like to be courtesy here. We like to make sure people say thank you. I know it's gone to Paddy Harnett, so I'll actually text Paddy for you, Paul, and let him know, and I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Big yourself up, Paul Connor, and really appreciate the generosity, guys. You know, if you do get one, feel free, you know, to do the same for others and pass it on. You know, let's get one big loving circle going on where we love each other. And also, Shawnee says you're killing it. Really appreciate that, lad. And Irregular Gamer says we've got a lot to talk about, Dave. Look, we've got a hell of a lot. That's why I've hopefully got shows lined up for you, live shows, the majority of this week. And hopefully you tune in and get involved with them. Anyway, Sam, over to you, my man. It's your time to shine. What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to take this conversation, lad? Anything you've seen on social media that's like you've agreed with or disagreed with? Anything you've seen anywhere around Spurs socials? Or do you want to talk about preseason? You know, maybe Ange Postecoglou, does he need to adapt from last season? Many people were questioning that.
I was watching last night a bit of Saba's stream, and he was talking about how we're looking at this left back from France.
Oh, yes.
I can't think of what his name is right now. Is it like Loco or something?
Yeah, something like that. I'll get it for you now.
And he was saying, you know, he looks like another one of these players that, you know, did very well last season, and he thrives in a system that allows the fullbacks to basically hug the touchline. So kind of circling it back to Ange, I do think there needs to be some sort of development from his system. And I think we've spoken about it before. I've made my points known that I'm not too keen on these inverted fullbacks.
Okay.
I'm not against them inverting, but I don't think that they should be inverting every time. I think the fact that they invert so much and they leave the flanks so open, especially with wingers that don't, their natural game, from at least from last season, was not to hug the touchline. I know you have players like Brennan who do hug the touchline, but you know, if you're starting Kulusevski, you're starting Son, they want to cut it. They want to be coming inside and getting a shot off. I know Kulu wasn't really that dangerous last season with cutting in like that, and it was a bit obvious. But I've said before, you know, when we play against these teams that have a back five, they just populate the middle of their third, and they say to us, you can horseshoe around us and try and get the ball in. If you're playing Son up front, you can try and get the cross in, but you know, we fancy us to keep it. So I think Saba said something about, you know, like Pedro Porro, he didn't make it to the Spain squad, and everyone's wondering why he didn't make it. I didn't necessarily agree with the reasoning, but I did think it was a valid point that Spain play with these very wide fullbacks, right? Like the wingers are able to do the inverting, and you know, they have the likes of Cucurella bombing down the wing. I won't say any more about that. And
paid dividends last night.
Yeah, don't even get me started, Dave. And I think that, you know, we have this, in my opinion, we have one of the best defenses in the league, and we conceded 61 goals last season. I mean, that's criminal. And you might say it's a slight improvement on the season before or what, but 61 goals is not good enough. When you look at the level of player that we have, you know, Porro might not be the most defensively capable, but he was doing a good job last season, in my opinion. Udogie, he has that pace and power to get back and knock these wingers off the ball. You got Van der Ven and Romero, who are up there as the best defensive duo in the league. So I don't really understand why you would limit them and basically make them play solely as these sort of centre mids. And then you look at the players that were coming in off the bench, like Emerson. You're playing him left back, and you're asking him to play basically like left centre forward, left attacking mid. And that doesn't help these players thrive. Look, Emerson's not a great example because he's not the most attackingly capable, let's say. But, I just think it's frustrating that we sort of force our way to play such a, obvious way now that everyone knows we're going to play exactly the same way. We need to see something different, in my opinion.
Do you know what? On a number of things you said there, I think you're absolutely spot on when it comes to the fullbacks maybe having a bit of a variation to what you're asking them to do. I think last season in general, I think the idea of getting the fullbacks to sort of come inverted is that if the opposition do turn the ball over, you're trying things up front, where they clear it 9 times out of 10, it's coming back central, or you can get pressure on, turn that ball over and go back at them. So I think the whole idea, especially, it is a bit defensive, where it's sort of, you've got everyone blocked up in the middle, and hopefully it doesn't make you as easy to play through. However, teams found out very quickly, one pass, straight in on the centre-backs, and away you go. And, even going forward at times, I found it frustrating. You got Son cutting in, you got Kulu cutting in, and it's just begging for one of the fullbacks to take some initiative and make a run on the outside, pull a player with them. And in effect, you actually give Son more space to operate in, and Kulu if the player goes. If the player doesn't go, you slide them in, they're in, free cross across the 6-yard box. It's really that simple. So I do agree with you to that point, and I would like to see that variation made. If you're going to play with 2 players that are inverting, Son's a right footer playing on the left wing, Kulu's a left footer playing on the right wing, it's obvious all day long they're going to want to cut inside. By bringing Pora and Udogie inside, in effect, they're actually just running into the space where then 2 players want to come in and sort of operate in. So it is a bit counterproductive, and I would like to see for certain games, okay, fine, play the inverted fullback if you want to stop them trying to play through the middle and stuff like that to a large degree. But when we're attacking, get them to go on the outside. I'm sure Udogie will be a lot more comfortable going on the outside than he is coming through the middle with the ball. Poro to a large degree as well. I'd like to see him go on the outside. So I do agree with that. I do think there needs to be sort of variations with it. However, what I would say is sometimes I do think that maybe us as fans, we can be a bit too impatient. We want the manager to do everything now. I think many people made the argument last year with Ange Postecoglou. But Guardiola has made adaptations. It's silly to say he shouldn't have to. Arteta has. But they made adaptations when they had a squad that was theirs, that they felt comfortable, that they could ask these players to do these little adaptations to help make them more solid. And I do think maybe that's something I'm expecting to see over preseason in the course of this season, Sam. Some variation, some adaptation. When it comes to the back line, I agree with you. I think we've got some of the best defenders I've seen at Tottenham in quite some time. I think Jan Vertonghen, or I think Van de Ven and Romero can be as good as Jan Vertonghen and Alderweireld were for us. But I think there needs to be an adaptation to the tactics, whether it's one fullback comes inside and makes a tree and gives that extra body there, or you buy a proper CDM who sits there and his job is just to blanket that defense, and a bit like what Rodri does for Man City. But I do think, and I'm hoping, they'll come this season.
No, definitely. Look, I think you hit the nail on the head with the 6 point. Like, in the final yesterday, before Rodri went off, they basically committed everybody forward, and they were effectively defending with a back 3, with Rodri playing that central centre-back. And Laporte and Lenormand playing as the sort of 2 wider centre backs. And let's be honest, England hardly laid a glove on them all night. We had chances, but every team is going to have chances. And I do think that we're missing that monster number 6. And I understand that Ange is saying he doesn't really see midfield players having set roles, but you can't deny that James Maddison is not going to play 6. You know what I mean? There are definitely variations of players that play in the midfield, and it's naive to. I'm not saying Ange is naive, but it's naive to suggest that there isn't players for specific roles. I get that he wants players to come in. That's why he's playing Bissouma as the 6, because he thinks he can get forward and drive on the ball. But Rodri can do that, and Rodri's the best 6 in the world.
So, what do you think the current options are there? Because, look, by all means, it looks like Spurs were going into the market, but Conor Gallagher's not your traditional number 6. Neither is Jacob Ramsey, some of the players that we were maybe looking at. Do you think that maybe they've revised the plan, that they've looked in it, Bentancur, between Bentancur, Bissouma, or even maybe Papa Matar, might end up playing there? Or would you be concerned if we don't sign a proper number 6 heading into the season, and that the same old problems could come back to haunt us?
I would be. I don't think it would be the end of the world, But I think it would be similar to these seasons where, we've been desperate for a striker, we've not signed one, and it's just been glaringly obvious throughout the season that we should have signed a striker. So I do think that Pap could end up being that number 6. I think he's a bit too wiry at the moment. He's not quite filled enough to be that like monster in the middle. He's got the athleticism, which is why I understand why he likes to play him as the 8. But I'll be honest, I don't actually think that Sarr is that good on the ball. He's not bad on the ball, don't get me wrong. But I think that we're kind of just using him there because he's athletic, rather than sort of what I think he could be doing, which is sort of holding down that midfield, making those sort of Mickey van der Ven type runs back towards goal, and freeing up Romero a little bit to push forward into the system, which is clearly what he wants to do. Let's be honest. He might not want to be a attacking player, but he wants to play as an attacking centre-back. The amount of times towards the end of the season that he was effectively playing as striker. Yeah. And then we're basically asking Mickey to defend the entirety of our third on his own, which he did a good job. Let's be honest. But
there was an over-reliance on him, though, wasn't there? There was an over-reliance on that pace.
And on his hamstrings.
Yeah, a massive over-reliance. And look, you're right. I think last year, there was a massive over-reliance on Van der Ven digging us out of a hole. But do you think Sarr can be that number 6 that we're screaming out for? Because I made that point last season that I would like to see him in that number 6, because I think, he wants to go and try and win that ball. He's good in the tackle. And I think he's got a bit of a better passing range than what people give him credit for. At times last season, I get what you mean about intricate playing in the final third. Probably lacks that. But he's got a good passing range. Sometimes last season, he was the only player that could get on the ball, or I've seen do it, and actually switch the play completely. I actually feel like he could play there. What's your thoughts?
No, I think he could. And, I might be wrong, but I feel like when he came on for Conte in that AC Milan game, he was kind of playing that role. I mean, we were basically playing with 2 6s anyway. But the cameo that he gave us in that game was that with the profile of someone who looked like he could play that sort of athletic 6. And the whole thing about Ange's system, from what I understand, is that he likes it to be fluid, right? He likes players to sort of be able to fill in all around the system. So it's not, you're not saying to Sarr, you have to stay in this exact position every time we play, and on every attack, you just sit back. He encourages these players to get involved, and he encourages the players to use their own football brains to apply what they think needs to be done in certain situations. So I definitely think that he could be molded into a 6. Like we say, he's 21, he'll be 22 next season, I think. He's got a long way to go before he's an established player in the team. He, last season definitely wouldn't have hurt his position in the team, but I do think that he was a little bit lost out there. And I do agree with you. He was playing some good crosses. I think there was a few that he did play that looked good. But yeah, I think that we do need to sign someone who's got that experience. They don't need to be an old player. I'm not asking us to sign the Ivan Perisic of midfield. But we need someone who's been in the game for a little bit. They don't necessarily have to be Prem proven, but they have to have European experience. They can't just be playing in the cliched farmers leagues. And we also can't over rely on players like Archie Gray and Bergvall to come in and make an instant impact. So we're going to need players to come in for competition, especially if Bentancur ends up getting some sort of ban for his comments about Son, which I think I've seen people. I think it was Alistair Gold was saying that Dyer and Ali ended up getting a 4-game ban for making some sort of COVID comments. So you can see him getting at least a 2 or 3 game ban, right? Which maybe he needs it coming back after a long campaign where he has struggled to get back to full fitness after 2 reasonably serious injuries. So I would be looking for someone to come in that position.
Look, yeah, so would I. So would I. I think one thing you hit the nail on the head there, Sam, before we let you go, is I think you're right when it comes to Gray and Bergvall. I think right now, because they're the only really new players in the door, there's a lot of over-reliance on them already to come in, hit the ground running, and be these sort of game changers. For me, it's not the ideal situation. You sign other players, and then when these guys are given their opportunity, they're almost pressure-free, and that's where you get the best out of them. And that's hopefully the situation we can get them to when we do integrate them throughout the course of the season. Absolutely spot on. Sam? Absolute great conversation. You're doing very well to make it completely different to the conversations I've had already. So thank you very much for that. A breath of fresh air. Really enjoyed that, and we'll speak to you again very soon, sir.
No worries, Dave. Cheers for having me on.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, my man. Have a good evening.
You too. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. We're back this week. Guys, how great is Sam? Absolutely brilliant chat. Great chat. Really, really enjoyed it. And really enjoy all the guests today. Everyone's bringing up different things and talking about different things, which goes to show how mad football is, right? We've got preseason games coming up this week, and everyone's looking out for different teams. I absolutely love it. I love this comment here from Chris Loney as well. I won't change. He's proved it. It works with all his naivety. Sorry, I'll start that again. What an absolute idiot I am. And won't change. He's proved it worked with all his naivety for the first 10 games. Lack of quality in squad let him down. He wasn't found out, but now the core of the squad and new arrivals will buy in. And Chris sums up one of the biggest problems that I've had at Tottenham over the years. The squad. I keep saying it. Don't get me wrong. I get caught up in the start of the season. I'm not going to apologize for it either. At the start of the season, I have hopes and aspirations that we can go and win every single cup. Now, obviously, as the season goes on, that dies out very, very quickly, usually after about 10, 15 games. And I'm never going to apologize for that. And I'm going to be the same way from here till I die. So no one's ever going to chastise me for that. Or you can, but you're not going to get reaction. But ultimately, it's a killer because although my hope is based off everything going Tottenham's right, everything falling into line. We live in a world that doesn't happen, unfortunately, and I just want to get to a point where things don't have to no longer fall in line. Okay, we've got an injury, grand. I don't have to sit there with everybody and go, geez, how are we going to cope? What are we going to do? Should we pull Skip in there? Who's the best player to pull out of position and put in there? I'm sick of it. If Adoji goes out injured, I want to say, okay, yep, full faith in him. He's brilliant. Let's bloody go. And that's the point we need to get to. Ange football works. But when we suffered a lot of injuries and sending offs in that one period after the Chelsea game, the players that came in, it was night and day. The football was night and day. The pressing out of possession was night and day. Okay, they got results. But this is my biggest problem. They always do the bare minimum. They always do enough just to get over the line and get a free pass. And I'm sick of it. For me, okay, if you can't come in and continue to deliver on 3 points, out you bloody go. That's the way it should be for me. That's where I'm at, Chris Loney. Absolutely love the comment. Big yourself up, my man. But I got to keep this going because, believe it or not, I'm not actually here to listen to me today. Here to listen to the fans and hear what they have to say. So let's get on the next guest. And it is the one and only Big Mick. Let's hear what you have to say. Michael, how are you keeping, sir?
Big up, Dave. Listen, I had something happen yesterday. Apparently, it didn't come home.
Look, for the goodness of football, I think it was the right outcome because, look, for me in modern day football, there's too much defending going on. There's too many excuses for players not putting it in. Too many reasons why they don't do it. And for the cheek, for the money they have to charge fans to follow their club, whether you go to games, whether it's through TV or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's an absolute extortion. I want to see my football played a certain way. I want to see teams go for it. And hopefully, for the goodness of football, Spain won and many teams start adapting that now going forward. We've seen the influence their tiki-taka brand had on European football, decimated it for a number of years. Then Jose's defensive football, effective, but sort of decimated for a number of years. Hopefully, we're going into that era where we see attacking football as the way going forward. And I think football won yesterday, Michael.
Yeah, I agree. I kid you not, that I have plenty of English friends, right, that I made here on YouTube, right, and I feel bad for them, honestly, right, because I know how it feels when you get your hopes up and you actually start believing that you can do something, right? Yeah. And I do realize that for English fans, it's been 4 years on the spin, right? Getting their hopes up and doing well in the tournaments just to fall short, right? But for those guys, I feel bad. But for like a good chunk of English fans who are really like arrogant, they are always so arrogant about their football and about the players that they have and about the team that they have. For those guys, I feel no remorse. Like I am happy that you guys lost. And it's just the way it is. And unfortunately, because of the way some of those fans approach, supporting their nation, the rest of Europe answers with, with disliking the English team, right? Unfortunately. But yeah, like in all honesty, like Spain were clearly the best team in the tournament, in my opinion. Like I think even the most stubborn English fans can like appreciate the fact that Spain were playing amazingly. And in my opinion, the final happened on the 5th when Germany played with Spain. I think those were the two best teams of the tournament. But I think the final was basically played there, right? And I'm not saying it was a formality because it's football, of course, like many things can happen, right? But in my opinion, the team that deserved to win won, right? But yeah, let's Euros
look,
is behind us.
Just quickly, that's all I want to see on the world stage is the two best teams in the final, two best footballing teams in the final, and the best footballing team win on the day. Look, it actually gets to the point I'm actually starting to feel sorry for England fans because, look, let's face it, they are a big nation. They're a big nation in terms of world football, but they just don't get over the line for whatever reason. It's almost like supporting Tottenham, where you're a big club with tradition, and you're trying to recreate that tradition going forward. You get so close, and it's almost the rug is swept from underneath your feet. It's so frustrating, and I do get it. But look, I'm delighted you didn't win. Anyway, but Michael, where do you want to take this conversation? Let's steer it on to Tottenham. I mean, pre-season, we've been talking about Ange Postecoglou maybe needed to change, maybe players that need to step up that really let us down last season. Are you concerned maybe about us not doing enough progress? We're flying out the preseason tour next year. That squad doesn't look entirely different. So where do you want to take this?
I just wanted to say one thing.
Oh, sorry, just quickly. Just quickly. Nick Carey did grab himself a membership, and how rude of me not to say thank you very much, Nick. So I do apologize on that. And belated thank you very much. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah, so one point I wanted to make about the comment that you brought up with like proving that Ange system works and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
I think
Chris Loney, let's get it up.
Yeah, I think I've said myself that I don't mind like the inverted fullback stuff when both of the guys invert, but I think because you said yourself, Ange football works, and I agree with that. But I think based on the personnel that we had last season available, right? I don't think that Ange football worked because of how some of the players didn't fulfill their roles properly, right? Yeah, so in my opinion, if you want to have both fullbacks inverting, which I think we have like the perfect fullbacks to do that, right? I actually think when people are saying that we shouldn't invert both fullbacks and we should leave one behind, right? I actually think that would hinder the fullbacks. I think that Udogie and Porro are too offensive-minded to be left behind. I don't think that like Udogie, Van de Ven, and Romero forming a back three would suit Udogie's game like style of play, right? But to solve that issue for me, we need a defensive number 6, right? And I think this was for me like the biggest issue of the last season and the biggest reason why I think many people think that Ange system doesn't work was because our number 6, whoever it was, didn't do their job properly, right? If you want to invert both fullbacks, you have to form a pseudo back three with your center defensive mid, right? And unfortunately, neither Bissouma nor Højbjerg, nor even like Sar or Bentancur, if they were playing there, they didn't do that role properly, right? And I think because the reason why I'm saying this is I seriously hope that we bring in a good defensive midfielder this season. And as much as I am completely like supportive and I'm really happy that we got Archie Gray, I'm not sure he's ready to do that role. I'm not going to lie. The only Leeds game I watched last season was the playoff, right? And he was okay in the playoffs, right? But it wasn't like I'm not saying he has to be Rodri level, right, or Rice level or whatever, right, but we have to have that defensive stability, and I just think that putting this much responsibility on a 17-year-old or 18-year-old would be too much, right? So I really hope that we in the defensive mid.
Just on that defensive mid quickly, Michael, I do hear you on it. And if you look at where Archie Gray played in that behind the closed door friendly, he played right back, even though Porro and Emerson were both available for selection. Do you think then that gives us an indication of where Ange initially sees him next season? Because I'm of the opinion, I actually don't think you're going to see him in the midfield too often unless there's a major injury crisis. And that's where his versatility comes in. I actually think you are going to see him more as a right back, which still means then we still need to go and sign that number 6 because Bergvall ain't a number 6 either.
Yeah, I think it will be like 70 to 30 right back center defensive mid. I think like 70% of the minutes that he will have next season, in my opinion, will be more as a right back. I just think I am pretty certain that Emerson will leave unless we literally cannot like agree a fee with any club, right? Because like you know how Levy works. Even though like Milan is interested and apparently Borussia Dortmund is interested and the Saudis are interested, right? We know how Levy operates. We know that he will probably, absolutely rinse whoever buys Emerson or they won't agree, right? So if Emerson leaves, I think that like most of Archie Gray's minutes will be in that right back position. And this is supporting what he played in the championship, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because he was playing more games as a right back than as a center mid, even though he is center mid by trade, right? But actually, it's kind of like a trend. I think that starts occurring that many center mids fill in as right backs or left backs. Like Kimmich is the perfect example. Trent Alexander-Arnold can play both roles. I think the way that the players are brought up in those academies, I think it just suits them playing that right back, the like defensive role as an like inverting right back. So they are basically a center mid.
Yeah.
It's just when it comes to defensive duties, they just go to the right and perform a right back role, right? So I don't think that's necessarily like hindering his progress or anything. And if he performed well in the championship, I'm more than happy to see him play as a Pedro Porro backup, right? Yeah, and as you said, I don't think we will drop this much responsibility on his shoulder to be playing as a center mid. I mean, like he will probably get some minutes here and there, maybe against some weaker competition, but I don't think we will see him. I don't know, like substituting Bissouma in like the 60th minute of North London derby. I don't think that will happen, right?
And you know what? For me, I agree with you. I think it's too much pressure to be putting on Bergvall and Archie Gray coming in here. You know, a lot of people don't want to give the likes of Donnelly an opportunity. Who's 19? These guys are 18. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a huge pressure to be putting on these guys. But especially to come in and make that impact initially straight away and change Tottenham's fortunes. What we need is to be able to gradually bring them in, and that's one thing Sir Alex Ferguson was absolutely unbelievable at for Man United. He dipped them in. He started them. He'd take them out, bring them off the bench and stuff like that. You know, he was really good with how he integrated them. And that's where we need to get to with a lot of these young players, is give them the opportunity, to fill out the squad. And when the opportunity arises, in you go, let's see what you can do. And quite frank, I know it's not ideal, but I'd rather have these guys than some of the shit I've had to watch coming off the bench in years gone by. And that's the brutal honesty of it.
Oh, yeah,
but,
of course.
They're not going to solve all your problems. And I agree with you, but Michael, what number 6? Because Spurs haven't really been linked to too many number 6. Johnny Maddox put it in there a while ago. We were linked to Ederson earlier on in the window, but since then, kapoof, it's gone dry. So, is there any number 6s out there that you have your eye on?
Yeah, there are a couple, right? The issue is that, as you said, like the links aren't there, which leads me to believe that we aren't really prioritizing that position, at least now, right? So for me, it's hard for me to like name players that I think that Tottenham would snap up right now, right? Because I think if you were getting linked to constantly getting linked to like Ederson for 40 million and some other guys for 50 million, then I can give you names like Zubimendi, for example, right? And it's not only like recency bias with his Euro final performance. I've actually been like, Real Sociedad is a bit of like I don't want to say my team for La Liga, but I really like the team. I really like the fact that they have so many Basque players, not to the Athletic Bilbao like standard, right? But there are a lot of Basque players. They pride themselves on having a lot of Spanish players. I like watching them, and trust me, this Real Sociedad squad has many talented players, right? Oyarzabal, Merino, Zubimendi. Oh Jesus, what was the Ito? No, the Japanese guy name, the winger. Oh Jesus, it escaped me.
He was at Madrid. Kubo, Tefik Kubo.
Yeah. So like Kubo, other guys that they have plenty of talent in that squad, right? And Zubimendi is one of them, right? And I think that he is that like six profile of player, and you could clearly see that with how he performed when Rodri came off injured, right? There was, of course, he's not as good as Rodri, because I don't think anyone is as good as Rodri.
No, it's
right?
hard.
It's of course it's not to the level, right? But I think there wasn't much of a drop off after he came off, right? He performed the same role to like a certain standard, and I think we need a player like him, right? We need a sweeper. Basically, we need a guy who will occasionally commit forward, like Rodri does sometimes, right? When they are seriously like pinning someone back, Rodri sometimes commits forward, right? But his main role is picking up the ball, distributing it, driving with it, and being the destroyer. And I think we are missing that type of player, right? I think there are other names like Locatelli from Juventus. I think he's a good player. He can perform that role.
I'd love him.
But coming back to my original point, right? Because we are not getting like linked to center defensive mids, I don't think we will shop in that market, and that's honestly worrying for me, because I think it's one of the more important positions other than the attacking areas. In my opinion, that should be our priority.
And do you know what? I think it's one of my fears too. I'd say with striker, I'm not sure we're going to get one in the door. I think with midfielders, I think when you look at the options we've currently got, James Maddison, you got Bergvall, you got Archie Gray can play there, so you throw him in there. Bentancur, Papamata Sarr, Ollie Skip is still around, and I doubt they're going to let him go, because he is a box ticking exercise. It takes the homegrown I spoke about in my regular video. It's exactly what they're doing with Ollie Skip. Make no mistake about it. So, where's the room for a seventh midfielder to come in here? I don't see it. They still got Højbjerg to get off the books, and I worry. I think maybe they look at it and go between and Bissouma. I think they look at it and go between Bentancur, Bissouma, and Sarr. You have enough there to be able to cover that position, and I fear they maybe have put Ange in that position rather than Ange wanted to be in that position, because Ange made it clear last season he still needs more players for he says, okay, look at 11 grand, but it's nowhere near where I want to be. So, I need more players in the door, and I just fear he's being told you got enough there, make it work, Ange. I worry about that, Michael. But look, let's wait and see what happens. Well, what else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's really frustrating, because we often talk about we need to sell before we buy, and people are like, oh, we should have funds. And I personally, the way I look at it, I don't think it's necessarily about like funding the transfers. I think it's about making space, right? Because as you said,
space and balancing the wages.
Yeah, we already have like 7 or 8 midfielders, right? Like there is no way we are bringing in a 9th midfielder or like 8th midfielder when we already have this many guys, right? So we have to get rid of Højbjerg, basically. And I think like I am certain he will go, and the faster it happens, the better for us, right? As you said, but we cannot really get rid of Skip, right? Because he's the box ticking exercise, as you said, right? We won't get rid of him, right? I don't think we will get rid of Bissouma, even though I think if an offer came, I think we probably could like consider selling him. I just don't think the offer will come. Him. Yeah, and we have. I think Lo Celso is gone too, right? But still, like even still, it's still like 7 names. So I think we at least need to get rid of one more, other than Højbjerg and Lo Celso, to make space for a guy. And I don't think we will, because I don't think many of those guys will have suitors, or we don't want to sell them, right? Because we won't sell Sarr, we won't sell Bergvall, we won't sell Maddison, we won't sell Archie Gray, we won't sell Bentancur probably, right? So that's 5 names already that will be part of the squad, right? So maybe you keep one other guy like Skip, right? That's 6. and then a seventh guy, right?
Yeah.
But we still would need to get rid of them, Bissouma, Højbjerg, and Lo Celso.
Yeah.
I just don't think it will happen. And similar thing with the forward line, like you said about being worried about us not getting the striker. I am almost fucking convinced that we won't, because we have too many names there. We have I think the last time I counted was like 7 or 8 attackers, right? So
Parrott
we need
was
to get
recently
rid of.
sold, so take him off. But you've got Richarlison, Valise, Dane Scarlett still knocking about. Son has been up there. Where's he going to play this season? Left wing striker. Werner can play there.
Richarlison, Kulusevski, Johnson. It's like 8 already, right?
Yeah.
And then like some of them will get loaned out, but I just struggle to find a player that we will sell, which means I struggle to find a place for a new guy to come in. Unless one of those players that we mentioned accepts that he will just play like a few minutes here, a few minutes there. And it depends. Probably there will be some players that will accept that role, right? But yeah, it's honestly a bit frustrating, because I think last time we spoke, I was like, come on, Tottenham, do some moves. But it's actually really annoying, because I don't think we work in that way. I don't think we will make moves before we sell, and it's really frustrating watching some of the names that are go around, right? I think I spoke with you about Chiesa, right? I think Chiesa would be like an amazing player for us, right? Unbelievable. There are some other talents going here and there, and I'm like, why aren't we stepping up, right? Why aren't we in for those players? And I think I kind of like found an answer. I just think that we need to sell before we buy, not because of money, but because of just
100%.
the space in the squad, right?
100%. Look, Tottenham are rich. They have the money. They could go out tomorrow and say, there's 300 million without any repercussions of financial fair play. Go and spend it. And I know many fans probably don't want to hear this, because, we're not accountants at the end of the day. We just care about the football. I get it. But the wage budget dictates absolutely everything. And you're talking about the wage budget ring pool for the players, the coaches, and everybody else. That they're going to have a set budget that they can afford to pay out at the end of every week, or at the end of every month, and at the course of every year. They can't go too much above that, because it throws all the other finances out of sync completely, and then they have to start pulling money from everywhere. So the wage budget is actually a lot of the reason why people go, Tottenham have to sell before they can buy, because if they end up closing the window and they've got a squad of 35 players, half of them are going to be kept around disrupting and all that other jazz. But there's about 12 extra players there that you're having to pay full wages for. That the club can't carry, and it has a knock-on effect into other windows. And that's why I keep saying it's absolutely imperative that we try and get these players off the books. Even if some of them you can't sell them, take the short-term hit, pay up their contract, and let them go for nothing. Because it does dictate a lot of the transfer window, that wage budget. It's absolutely crucial, and it's actually something I don't think gets spoken about enough. And until we offload, because we've got a squad right now, people go on about Chelsea having a large squad. Look at all the players that flooded back in from loan. Our squad is just as big right now.
We have something like 30, I think 35 players or something like that, right? Including all the guys that came back from loan. Or I think it was before Tanganga and Ndombele left, right? I think we have something like 30-something players.
Madness.
And you can only register 25, right? So you need to get rid of some players. It's just not feasible to bring in more players and risk the ones that you already have not leaving, right? Because then you, as you said, you have to take risky decisions with paying up the contracts. But paying up the contract is like it dampens heavily your financial structure, right? Because when a player is getting paid like 100k a week, it's like 5 million a year, right? And imagine the player has like 2 years left on his contract. You have to pay him 10 million up front, unless you have like some break clauses or whatever.
Well,
right?
usually there's a bit of negotiation. Usually the player they'll go in looking full, but they'll usually get 70%.
Yeah, but it's still like a massive amount of money, right? And if it has to happen with more than one player, you are suddenly looking at like 30 to 40 million just to pay players out of their contracts, right? And as you said, it's really freaking annoying, because as you said, we are not accountants. We shouldn't care about that, but you kind of have to care about that, or at least you have to know that to understand why.
You have to try and understand it, or else you drive yourself mental, right?
Yeah, it's like it's really annoying, Dave. And yeah, as you said, and not only that, you mentioned wages also, right? I also like look at our wage structure, and it's really limiting in terms of like bringing in some players, right? Because there is a lot of talk about like Nico Williams, right? And as far as I remember, Nico Williams is on something like 260k at Bilbao or something like that, right? So if he moves to Premier League, there is no way he's taking like a 50% wage cut, right?
No,
and especially not when he moves, especially not if he moves to Tottenham, right, where he's at risk of like
he's not like he's in
trophies, right?
He's not like he's in decline either, though, Michael, is he? He doesn't need to, you know.
Exactly. So suddenly, let's imagine we buy Nico Williams and offer him like 300k a week, right? And the second player that's like behind him in wages is Son on 200k, right? And suddenly you find yourself with Son knocking on your door and saying, "Listen, I've been here for like 10 years. I'm a great servant to this club. I scored like 200 goals or something for this club, right? Why is this guy who just came getting paid like 150% of my salary, right?"
Would you know what, Michael, on that actually?
Right?
On that, I heard there's a new thing they're doing. Rather than going in and knocking on the door, some of the best players at the club, in their contracts, they're actually stating if anyone comes in on higher wages, automatically I have to match that or be brought up so much above that limit. So again, there's all that stuff behind the scenes in play that we don't even know about. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm back. Sorry. I think
I was saying, Michael, you know, nowadays in contracts, you know, players have it put in that if a player arrives and they're on and they're the highest earner and they come in on more, that they automatically go back to being the highest earner. So there's all that stuff in play. And maybe answers why you can't go after someone like a Nico Williams, because you bring him in and you're putting up Son to what, 350k a week, if Nico Williams comes in on just a little bit below that. So it has a massive knock-on effect and things that we probably don't even consider. It's annoying, to be honest.
And suddenly, instead of like paying 50 million a year on player wages, you play like 75, right? And it's another like thing to take into consideration, right? And I think, by the way, I think Kane had that, right? I think Kane had the clause that he has to be the highest earner at the club or something. I think I read it somewhere that basically whenever someone came on higher wages than him, he was getting bumped up, right? Listen, rightfully so, he was the best player at our club, right? It's not like he didn't deserve it, but you still have to take that thing into consideration. But listen, that's like all transfer talk, but fortunately we have a friendly in 2 days, right? If I'm not mistaken. I am honestly gassed to see Tottenham play. And listen, even if it's not like the perfect match or whatever, right? I am still absolutely gassed to see Ange, to see the young kids play, to see some of our players play, because we didn't have many on the Euros, right? So we had a big break watching our players. So I'm really stoked. I am absolutely happy. And I hope we use a lot of the younger ones and give them like 45 minutes here, 60 minutes there, 30 minutes here. I really hope that we see guys like Berg. And I'm not only talking about like Bergwall and Archie Gray. I'm talking about like, you know, maybe Will Langshire will get some minutes, or maybe, you know, maybe Donny will get some minutes, or Devine or whoever, right? I hope they get some minutes and we at least get to watch some of them, right? Listen, I am fully aware that like probably most of those young kids won't make it, right, from our under 21s, because that's just the way it goes, right? Not every player from the under 21s will make it, but I just hope that one of them turns out to be the guy, right? Not Kane maybe, but someone just of the required level to help us with, to even help us with something as stupid as this homegrown quota, right? The fact that we have to rely on like Whiteman, Austin, Skip, and whoever else, right? The fact that we have to keep them in the squad and register them into the squad because we don't have players that fulfill that quota, right? And as much as like 40 million on Archie Gray, I wasn't really like the biggest fan of spending this much money. He will be homegrown, club trained in 3 years, right? And if he fulfills at least like half of his potential and is a good player, a solid player that we can rely on, to have a guy like him in the squad is absolutely like so valuable for us, right? And I hope
100%. And look, and that's one thing I must stress. This year there is no actual urgency on the club. Ideally, you want them homegrown trained players. If they're being squad registered, you want them to be able to contribute, ideally, right? That's where we want to get to. But for the next couple of years, we're not actually under any pressure to register them, because any player that's under 21 years of age doesn't have to be registered. Technically, you can say they're under 21 and you can play them. So in effect, if you've got 4 or 5 good lads there, it brings your squad from 25 to 30. And that's where we should be taking advantage of this. But look, I think especially games against Hearts and QPR, this is what you're going to see. We've got a lot of players that run international tournaments. They're going to be coming back slowly. These next 2 games against Hearts and QPR, I think, will be used to see what players we kept around and brought on tour, what players will go out on loan. So let's wait and see what happens. But I am really, really excited that we are back. But Michael, again, how do you do it? I don't know. 5th person in, you still talk about stuff that people haven't touched, which I absolutely love. It keeps it fresh. And look, thank you very much for your time, my man. But I got to keep this going, and I got to get Shawnee on next. And really enjoyed the conversation, Michael.
Yeah, so did I.
You're around Wednesday.
Yeah. Just give me a call.
5 p.m.
I will be there. Yeah, I will be there. Like 5 p.m. your time, 6 p.m. my time. Right? Yeah. Of course, I am on it. Like just give me a message on WhatsApp and.
I'll drop you a message there tomorrow morning, all right?
Okay.
Michael, great conversation. You enjoy your evening. And go on, you Spurs, man. We're bloody back.
Brilliant job on the fan show.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you. Do you know what? What a great conversation there. And I'm actually glad that Michael went into, the likes of the wage budget, because it is something that I've often thought about and never really mentioned before. So I'm glad we went into that. I thought it was an absolute fascinating conversation. But look, from one fascinating conversation to another, let's bring on the one and only Shawnee Mannix. Shawnee, pre-season's upon us. You must be excited, right? You're a big fan of watching the academy last year. We're going to see some of these guys now in a first-team match setting. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. First, I got to show off my Romero jersey for next season.
Did you pay 90 quid or 12 quid?
We got the new got the new kit in, so we can enjoy that. Again, I think they went with the light blue because it matches up just a little bit with the Argentina colors. Okay. You gotta get the best out of Romero and Lo Celso. Put him in the blue.
Because maybe it looks better than what it does in the picture, Shawnee. Give me another glimpse of that.
Yeah, I'll hold the front up this time.
Do you know what? It actually looks a bit better than what it does in pictures, but I still go with it looks like a seedy carpet in a gentleman's club. And until I see it physically in person, I might change my opinion. But look, of course, congratulations to Romero, our guy, up there lifting trophies. Hopefully that'll be at Tottenham Hotspur. But Shawnee, where do you want to take this conversation, my man? You are the closer.
Yeah,
where do you want to take this?
I don't know if you got into this earlier. I hopped on a little bit late. But I was kind of excited by the closed door friendly, a little bit of kind of the news going out there.
Right, let's go into it. I haven't really touched on that, actually. Let's get into it.
Yeah, well, again, your favorite player, Brennan Johnson, scored a hat trick. So I know how excited you were, Dave, just to read that.
Give me one moment, Charlie. I'm just taking a swig of water. Keep going. I'll give you my opinion on Johnson in a minute. Go on, keep going.
Well, I think he's got a lot of kind of effort to go. But if we're seeing him start to consistently hit the back of the net, because I think that was the issue a lot of the times, was that consistency in putting away chances. Because, again, he did put up some good numbers, but he also just kept missing sitters. So if he buckled down and focused a bit more on finishing and is able to kind of consistently put some of those chances in, again, I think we'll have a real threat in him, even if we start him off the bench. But I think he started in that friendly and he scored some goals, which was unique for him. Again, you had Son scoring a few.
Before we move on to Sonny, right? I'm gonna have my piece on Brendan Johnson, Charlie. Look, first of all, brilliant. That's what I want. Keep doing that. I won't have a thing to say about the guy, right? That's all I want is for him to be a lot more consistent. However, look, if the guy comes out and puts in a brilliant performance this season, I'll take everything back and I'll even apologize to him. No problem whatsoever. But I do urge people, because people used to do this to me with Harry Winks. right? It plays great against a championship team. See, Dave, you don't know what you're talking about. Where is he now? In the championship. And I've always said it's easy to play against them because that's your level. We do have to understand it was only against Cambridge United, who aren't even fit themselves, and it's pre-season. So I'm not being funny. I'd probably bang a hat-trick if I had Son and that supply me against Cambridge United. So I'm not getting too carried away. However, all you can ask is that he hits the ground, hits pre-season, the ground running, and improves on last year. So far, it looks like he's getting it a little bit. So let's wait and see, Sean.
I'm cautiously optimistic there. Again, I think I've seen a lot of potential from this player, but again, he hasn't been consistent. So I'm hoping. But again, this is the second season, so I think this is kind of the point at which it's more of a make an impact, or we are going to look to move on. I feel like the first season for any player, you have to give them enough time to kind of get everything sorted, and then now we can really start being a little more critical. But no, again, I think he is going to come even higher. I'm probably predicting at least 10 goals and a bunch of assists this season.
Okay.
I think he'll be the impact sub for a lot of these games. But no, so I think there's a high ceiling there. Again, it was nice to see Donnelly getting some minutes at left back, but honestly, just getting involved. At this point, I mean, Spurs don't have any center backs that were available because they're all on international duty, which is good to see. So again, I think you had mentioned that what we saw at right back was Archie Gray, which I think is probably more indicative. But again, I think it's just good to see these guys getting involved with the international tournament disrupting everything. These next few games are really going to be a chance for all of those young players to kind of make a statement about why they should be included this season.
Do you know what? You absolute great point. And if I'm a youngster, this is an ideal opportunity. A lot of the senior players are out of the way for a couple of games. You know, if you ever want to make a mark, if you ever want to make an impact, now's your chance. And I do hope that some of them youngsters maybe foreseen this happening and we're doing a lot of training behind preseason to give themselves that extra advantage heading into preseason in terms of fitness levels and stuff like that, and really use it to their advantage. And I'm really excited for these next couple of games because I do think we're going to continue seeing some of these youngsters, Tyrese Hall, Donnelly. But Donnelly at left back I find interesting. I wonder, is it because he's left-footed and everyone else coming through isn't really left-footed? Or is it because Ange feels like he's so far ahead of anyone else in around that age in terms of up here in his brain? Because I'll always maintain, you've got a good football brain. You can get by in multiple positions without looking like a donkey. And apparently, he had a really good 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a little bit of they needed a left-footed guy to kind of make up the numbers, because I was reading that they brought in like one of the U18, like 16-year-olds to play next to Dorrington. Or was it Phillips? Again, they're making up the numbers where they can, but again, this is the chance for those young players to go on and show what they can do. Again, we saw Moore in second half came on, scored a goal. Again, Mikey Moore's been incredible for England in the U18s. Yeah.
Scores.
And again, I think he would be the player I think makes the biggest impact this season out of, I think, all the youth players. I think he's the most ready to come on and do something immediately. But no, again, I think you have that core of 4 to 5 guys that are starting to come through. And again, this is kind of their chance to show that they can compete. And again, I think the best news is this keeps those first stringers on their toes, performing at a higher level, or they're not playing. And I think that's what we need to see a little more from Ange this season. It's just a little bit more of that ruthlessness of you're not in form, you're on the bench.
Do you know what? I think he was starting to bring that in towards the end of the season. He done it to James Maddison, if you remember. And there's a couple of other players he sort of dropped towards the end of the season and says, "Look, enough is enough." But I do agree with you. Like, one of my biggest bugbears with any manager that walks in this store, and I get it, right? They have to come in, they have to assess the squad themselves and stuff like that. But if they went and listened to a lot of fan channels talk about the same players not being good enough. And I think they'd buy themselves a lot of grace if they actually had the balls to bring some of these youngsters through and go, okay, no problem. I'll put my faith in this guy. Out you go if you're not going to perform. And that's where we really let ourselves down over the years. And look, I get it. In an ideal world, you want every manager who comes in here to have a squad of at least 22 players, right, that they can rely on. I get it. But I almost feel like at times we make too many excuses for them. Half of the fan base go, hang on, these backup players are good enough. The manager's just not getting the best out of them. And then other people like me will go, hang on, he's put them in before. He hasn't been able to rely on them. Go with something different and give a youngster an opportunity and stop going with the same thing and create the squad depth that way. But it just seems like no manager is willing to do that. And I think that's maybe where Ange could look to do that a little bit this season. And I'd argue there's no better time than now than ever before. Because right now at under 21 and at under 18 level, plus some of the ones that we've signed in terms of Phillips, Bergvall, Gray, Vescovic on his way, we've got a clutter of talent. We're not talking about one or two. With about 10 we've got there, you would expect at least 3 or 4 to be able to come through at some point. And for me, I think it's just waiting on the manager to have the balls to do it.
Oh, Dave, give me 1 second. There's a timer going off in the back.
No problem. Shawnee doesn't want his sandwich burnt. He's probably got a sandwich on or something going on the slow cooker. Some of his, pulled pork or something like that. He's been showing us over the years. He's been making epic food. He's been making me really hungry. But, as I was saying, let me know in the comments, guys. Do you agree that, you do want a manager at some point stop turning? If the club ain't going to get some of the shitheads out, well, actually, I shouldn't call them that. Sorry. Some of the players that maybe don't fulfill the need that we need, that they should create the competition, guys. Let me know in the comments where you're at with that. But Shawnee, first of all, what were you saving from getting burnt? What's in the oven? What were you saving?
Oh, no. I had some laundry going. My dryer's been kind of doing, and it doesn't turn off anymore. I need to fix the sensor. So I have to set a timer.
And I'll sometimes sort it out, Shawnee.
I made some brownies last night, Dave. So I already have snacks around the house. But yeah, no, again, Dave, I heard you going into discussing the outcomings, and that was kind of the other area where I think I was most invested in terms of, again, there's a few players we need. We've been talking about it for about a month now because the tournaments have stopped most of the transfers going through. Mm-hmm. But again, I think the most important thing is to trim down the squad to make space for those youngsters. Because, again, we have a lot of guys that aren't doing anything for us. Like, again, I don't know if we've actually offloaded Brian Hill yet, but he's not in Ange's plans. Ange wasn't really using him. Lo Celso is great for Argentina, but injured whenever we need him. Again, there's just a lot of guys in the squad that are taking up positions and minutes that can go to those youngsters so we can push on. And it also solves a lot of those homegrown kind of quota numbers. So again, I think that's hopefully going to be some of the focus. Because, again, I feel like there was a lot of stuff about, Emerson's on the way out the door, but nobody is left in terms of all those rumored outgoings. Yeah. So, I think the hope is that now we got maybe 1 or 2 guys in, we'll start to send guys out. So we have space to bring a few more guys in.
Sean, it's been one of my biggest bugbears. It's like, okay, I could get if we're targeting players that are at international duty, I can understand why we haven't brought them in. But have we not done more to try and find buyers and ship players out of the club that haven't been on international duty? I don't understand that.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely a few players that were going to be harder to ship out just because they're like Emerson was on international duty, so it's going to be harder to get that negotiated. Brian Hill's just sitting there. There's a few other guys that are just sitting there that. But again, I will say the club started that process at least. Again,
True.
You got Troy Parrott out, you got Joe Roden out, and you got Ndombele's contract canceled. So now Ndombele can go to the McDonald's League, go get some burgers in France, make both sides happy with that one. But no, so again, I think they started that process. But again, there's just so many guys that we need to get rid of. That we need to keep that momentum going. But again, I think there's only a few kind of players that I think we're desperate kind of to get in. Again, if we get that striker in and one of those other ones, those I think we want to get done immediately. Most of the players we're going for are all international quality. They were at international tournaments. So they wouldn't be joining for a few weeks. So I don't think it's going to impact what preseason they would have had too much if we're shopping at kind of the right quality level. So again, it's kind of you get those 2 or 3 players in, and then you just start trimming the squad down. I think Ange will have a much clearer picture of who's in his plans. I think there's a bunch of guys that Ange knows he's just unloading. And I'm hoping, like I think you said this in one of your videos, we were talking about the preparation for the preseason tour and how we don't want to bring anywhere near as many guys. And especially in terms of the guys, it's kind of if you bring extra people, you want to bring extra academy youngsters and guys where we really want to get a look at what they can do, not guys that we've seen aren't good enough.
But see, 1 second, I think I have a sneeze coming. It'll come anyway. It'll happen naturally. But where my point was coming from on that, I just don't think it's useful bringing guys that are not going to be a part of his plan. We've done it last year, right? Endom Lardas, I just knew the guy wasn't going to be a part of the plans. Sanchez, Dyer. Like, not only were they never going to be a part of the plans, and they shouldn't be participating in, where we're doing tactical stuff with the football, because A, they're not good enough to do that anyway. They probably destroy the rhythm and the routine of it. But B, why even waste and invest time into them guys when that's time you could be putting into other people, or doubling down on time on players that are going to be a part of the project, and really make sure and help them develop and learn and stuff like that. I think it's just a piss take. And the only reason why the club made them do that last year is to put them all in the shop window. And if we don't get them gone before tour this year, I would expect the exact same thing to happen to a degree, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating, but they did manage to get Dyer out the door and a few of those other guys. So, if that's what it took to get rid of them, then a little bit of the sacrifice might have been worth the cost. But again, I think I think with this second season, I think we're going to see a lot of stuff streamlined. I think Ange has a much better grasp of how he's running things. So I think we'll see a lot more efficiency and just significant improvements in a lot of those kind of behind the scenes.
Look, I really do hope so, Shawnee, because we left last season in a good position. We finished 5th. Look, there was a lot of talk about Ange Postecoglou being out of his depth, being naive. Well, he finished 5th. He can't be that out of his depth, can't be that naive. A lot of the football, we could see what he's trying to do if we just help him with the squad to provide it. I think a lot of us Spurs fans are going to be happy, and it's just about doing enough to be able to improve on last season. You do enough, and it'll put you into a title race. We're not that far off it if we continue to address our problems. My only concern is if we don't, and other teams do, like United signing the likes of the Lit and people like that, it could catapult them again ahead of us and puts us again back behind the curveball again, and we don't want that. So hopefully, we make the right signings and can improve on last season and get ourselves into that title challenge, because it is what Ange Postecoglou ultimately wants. And if we don't go in that direction, we could be looking at another managerial change very, very quickly.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of good foundations laid from last season. So it's really about how we capitalize on that momentum. So again, I think there was a bit of dissatisfaction kind of the end of last season. I think some of it was a little overblown, but again, that last season is behind us, and it's really about kind of pushing forward. And the only real concern is we've been a bit slow in terms of kind of those transfers, because I think there's still we haven't significantly improved yet on the quality of this squad. Again, we got a lot of young and kind of hungry players, but we don't, again, without having played them, we don't know exactly where that leaves us. So, and there's a few positions a little bit weaker. So, again, I think that's what we're hoping to see is a few more transfers in and to just start cutting the excess out of the squad.
Well, by the way, just quickly, Chris, send that video to me if you can. Look, hopefully we can cut that the access to the squad, because ideally all we want is just everyone that's singing off the same hymn street that want to go and win, you know. So let's see if we can get there. But Shawnee, any other things you want to talk about before we let you go, my man?
Not
a lot. Stress free. I don't want anything from Tottenham playing on your mind when you have to talk through it with yourself. You know, that's what I'm here for. Anything else?
I mean, I think the only thing that kind of comes to mind is kind of what we saw in terms of kind of the quality of Spain through that tournament. Is a really similar system to what Ange does. So again, if we can get in the right quality to really be able to implement that system, again, we can compete with the best teams. So again, I think everyone says Ange just found out, and I think it's a player quality issue. Spain plays almost the same system as Ange ball. They just have Rodri and a few of those other players at Nico Williams, those guys at that level to kind of pull it off. Because again, we sorted out the defense. Romero is probably the best center back in the world currently, or one of the best. And now we just need to get that offense ticking. But again, I think the system is promising. It makes a lot of sense. It's just about getting that final bit of quality and personnel in to carry out the system. And again, just we got to back the boys starting now. With the game coming Wednesday, and just get behind and support the team and kind of create that positive atmosphere. Because I think that was maybe the biggest disappointment was kind of mid-season, kind of post-Chelsea. We hit a bit of a slump, and I felt the energy was just getting a little negative, a little infighting. And I'd really like to kind of avoid that this season.
So would I. And, you know, and I think it'd be a breath of fresh air, not only for the supporters, but the players, the management, you know, the owners to a large degree. If we can sort of just have a season where it's all kumbaya, right? You know, we're all behind the project. We're all singing off the same hymn sheet. And the fans are watching the team where everyone's giving it their all. Everyone's trying their nuts off, you know, and hopefully we can get to that bit of stability, you know, a good aura around the club, a good aura in around the dressing room. But in order for that to happen, it will have to start with the team being able to put in consistent performances and ensure that they can win games back to back. And then that'll start, you know, buying belief. So I agree with you. I think that's a good point, actually, about, you know, trying to set a good atmosphere around the club this year. It would be nice for a change, to be brutally honest, because one thing that's sick, look, it's all right for us fans to vent our anger and stuff like that, and Tottenham fans, because we pay for this shit. But when I see other journals and stuff, we support other clubs joining in, it's like, fuck off. It pisses me off, you know, seeing them guys, you know, pile in on Tottenham. And it'd be nice for us to be in the news for the right way, right things this time around, like we were on the Pochettino then, you know, some of the shit we're in the news for lately. Shawnee, great call again. And again, I don't know how you've managed, but you brought up different talking points to what I spoke to everybody else about today. And I think this is one thing I've really enjoyed about this fan show. And one thing I encourage you and all others to do, you know, try and bring up different talking points so we can keep it fresh. It's been absolutely brilliant today. And Shawnee, lastly, thank you. Well, actually, I don't know if I should be thanking you, because I think you made me more hungry anything, you know, over the course of the Euros with some of the food you're producing. But honestly, my man, from here, thank you very much for coming on and giving some massive dig out on Tifo over the Euros.
Oh no, that was a lot of fun. Again, I hope we do at least a little bit more with Tifo.
Oh, we will.
Again, I think it's been a fun platform, and again, it's kind of just more ways to interact with the community is always fun.
No, we will be. We'll be doing, hate alongs for Arsenal and Chelsea and people like that over there, and Champions League games over there, so because we're trying to keep this for Tottenham content, and then, people that want to see us do other football content, be over on Tifo. But Shawnee, thank you very much, my man. We'll let you get back to sorting out your dryer on the timer. Like I said, just give it a little kick sometime, that sorts it. And we'll see you again soon.
All right, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. We're back this week, Shawnee. Let's go. Guys, another great call from Sean. Really enjoyed that again, going through the friendly the other day, actually, which was very kind of him because, it's something that I didn't get to go through, actually. So thank you very much on that. And I think he makes a great point about setting a good atmosphere around the club this year. And look, obviously, we can sit here and preach, that's the fans' job. The fans do their job. They go there first game of the season, getting behind them, and ultimately they react to what happens over the season. So if we can get some wins together, have a good season on the pitch in general, no sideshows off it, like the owner getting arrested for fraud and shit like that, it would be absolutely nice. However, forget about that. Preseason starts this week. Good game against Hearts on Wednesday, Andrew's first trip back to Scotland, and then back down to the capital for a friendly against QPR. And I know Ellie's husband would be delighted, or maybe a bit of rivalry in the house that day on Saturday, because Ellie's Tottenham and her husband Theo is QPR. And I'm really excited for a number of reasons. A, Tottenham is back, and B, some of these youngsters that I've watched last year, I'll finally get to see them in a first team game and see what they're like. But guys, last thing I will say is, maybe last year we disappointed a little on some of the content we delivered or the lack of content we delivered. But we're back with a bang this season. Plenty of content coming your way. Make sure you stay tuned. I'll see you back here tomorrow. I have a video dropping out in the morning about 5 players that I think need to have a good preseason and hit the ground running. If not, their future will probably be in doubt next summer. So please watch it. Give me your thoughts on it below. I'll make sure to respond. And then hopefully I'll have a panel show for you tomorrow at some point as well. And then, of course, back here Wednesday for the pre-match and the watch-along. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. A massive thank you to all of you who stuck with me throughout the 2 hours. I know it's a very long show, so thank you very much. A massive thank you to all the guests who, after a long day of work, give up their time to come on and talk Tottenham. That can't be understated. So thank you very much. And lastly, thank you to some of the people who went the extra mile. Darkson G, DJ Samuel, Moondog, Paul Markey, Steve D as well. Paul Connor actually giving out a membership as well. What a legend. And also Nick Carey as well. So guys, thank you very much. We'll see you all back here tomorrow. As always, come on, you Spurs. In the big arms we trust. We are ready. Let's go.